Back here at Deadlock Fight Night, North America, number 25. ZP here and Jake to bring you the money match. Hydra Nation once more challenging Melee Creeps for $1,000 and the title of being Kings of North America. And Jake, we're just gonna bring back in Mitch right away here because you know what, Jake? We got some sweet merch. We're gonna talk about it.
Life's better with the three of us all together. Happy family returns. My son Uber shouts, bringing him up, giving him a chance.
That's it. Being anyone's son at this point makes me feel young, so I'm happy to stay with it. We talk about merch or what?
Yeah,
I like
we're bringing up the merch. We're bringing up the merch.
Right.
And look, you were selling not just the subs earlier, Mitch, but you're also selling audiobook promos. What do we got here for merch?
Listen, we've got a great range of merch at the moment. This is not all that we have, by the way. It's just our latest designs. We got the Dynamo, we got the 7, all very relevant in the metagame, as we've seen. Got banned in the last match. We saw them at the end of Europe. And also some great designs there. I feel like the 7 shirt kind of goes hard. So yeah, think about picking them up. Deadlockfightnight.com. That's where you can support the show. It's one of the many ways that you can support us is going and checking out the merch, sharing it with your friends, getting something yourself, showing it off on social media. Throwing gifted subs to the chat is a great way to do it as well. There's so many ways to keep the lights on here at DFN, but this merch is one way that we can give back to you with these legally distinct designs that may or may not bear resemblance to actual in-game characters. You be the judge.
That's absolutely right. And look, I mean, the merch is high quality, Jake. I have some, you have some. It's not bad. Also, I think in your case, you're particular to the mugs.
I'm a coffee mug enjoyer. I got a couple t-shirts though. I've been rocking them. I got the Bebop t-shirt goes crazy actually.
Nice.
All right, but we're going to move along in here. Of course, you might be wondering, well, who's on Melee Creeps? Well, it's the usual suspects for Melee Creeps with a little bit of substitution. That's right, AVG not available this week. Instead, it's going to be Ido coming on in as a sub for the Melee Creeps roster. And also because Ido, of course, streams the game a lot, one of the most known streamers in the game, it means that his own chat will be his worst enemy over the course of the game. And if Melee Creeps doesn't win, they will blame Ido, even as they support Ido on every day of his stream. It is wild how that works, Jake.
People just love to hate, bro. They hate us because they ain't us. Stay winning, Ido. I believe. You know what? If Ido has one fan, it's me.
I mean, listen, I'm fine with it. Honestly, that's only going to sort of propel him to greater heights. Good to see Idorian take to the cursed apple today. This Melee Creeps team looking really good, but talking with them in their interview last week, they sort of said, yeah, it's like a little hard to come across good scrims right now. And then we all knew that we were on the precipice of a new patch, and they were like, yeah, we don't really know like what the game's going to look like, and we're going to have a pretty limited time to prepare. So curious to see what they've cooked up over the last, checks notes, 2 or 3 days, and how they'll be able to hit the ground running, because this team did need to build ahead of steam to get to the top of this region.
Yeah, and I mean, I think some of their strengths now are basically nullified. One of the big ones is that no one really wanted to give Melee Creeps Bebop because of their proficiency on the hero, especially if you had players like John playing it, and they're just like, no, you don't, people had to respect ban Bebop versus Melee Creeps most of the time. You don't have to do that anymore because most people see Bebop as significantly weaker at the moment in this patch. Maybe Melee Creeps will show us otherwise in this next game, but the reality is items like Counterspell and just some of the general changes of the game might put Bebop off in a corner for a little bit here, Jake. So all the signature hero stuff did get shifted a bit here in this patch.
Yeah, a lot of the top heroes I think have just been struggling to find their way. However, I do think I don't really rate this first week of meta too highly, because I will say I think a lot of heroes that may be out of favor could just be that, they need a new build. They need a new perspective to be had. Remember things like Gun Yamato was super strong for a while. And sometimes it takes a second to really figure out in a new patch, especially a major update to the item system, new ways to play old favorite heroes. So I do think there's still a lot of room for innovation. That being said, pressure is on Melee Creeps, right? Less time in the patch means maybe they will be a little bit more reliant on following other teams' leads when it comes to what they draft here in this opening game of the series.
It's interesting to think about just how Grey Talon has kind of disappeared off the face of the earth with this patch comes in. We just really haven't seen much of it at all. And the Moe and Krill, I think there was a ban in game 1 that turns out it was a bug. It wasn't actually a Moe and Krill ban. So a couple of those ubiquitous heroes have really fallen off the map pretty quickly. I think we saw an Invictor in Europe's game 1 and there wasn't really much to write home about it. So I'm keeping my eye on a couple of those heroes. And I think a lot of people have been wondering when Viper is going to also find a way to get in. Still really haven't seen that picked.
I mean, there's a world where Viper could be good with things like split shot. I think there's like some theoretical item builds, but no one's been able to like actually test it much in real games because scrims have been a little bit hard to come by. Shiv, though, gonna get banned early on. And, you know, to the idea of Vindicta, with heroes having more HP across the board generally right now, percentage HP damage is pretty valuable at the moment. So you would think you'd see a little bit more Vindicta gameplay just because of the nature of Crow. Like, Crow as an ability pretty much objectively got stronger in this patch. But Hydra Nation, first pick coming on up. What is it going to be? Will it be Abrams one more time? It's Pocket.
Wow, they're doing the Ido hatred draft. They're doing the take Pocket and Yamato away from Ido draft. This is actually devious from Hydra Nation.
I like this a lot.
Oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, again, we did see Pocket sort of tested a little bit over in Europe, and obviously there's every reason to expect great Pocket play from this Hydra Nation team. He seemed reasonable. He wasn't able to win that game out here, and this is NA. This is so NA coded, bro. Warden, base.
Okay, Warden might actually be really good with Mercurial Magnum, more so than we're giving it credit for. But first pick good when you have to pick the Sinclair now, or you give up the Sinclair counter pick when you know that Hydration is sitting here being like, yo, let me get Abrams one more time. What's it gonna be? They pick Kelvin.
Yeah, look, you got a very strong lane here. You got the Warden Kelvin lane, so you do have that. If Sinclair isn't snapped up here, you can ban it if you're really that concerned about having to deal with it. I don't like the Sinclair, even in the Dynamo game we saw in Europe, was like kind of terrifying, and they're just an absolute lane bully. So I do think you're pretty incentivized to either snap him up or make sure he's banned out. But Wraith is obviously still at large here for Hydra Nation. By and large, though, the drafting's still.
Green Abrams.
Oh god!
On the second pick,
he's powered up. We didn't make that tournament legal. Oh dear God! Hydration. What are you cooking this game?
Abrams Verde, chat. Holy. Okay. Look, I mean, I don't think Abrams needs much of an introduction since we already got one in the hands of Hydration in that previous game. The fact that he was like dropping in behind people, going super aggressive. We never really got to see what Crush This could truly do because he picked it up and then they just ran into the enemy base, kill the patron. So hopefully we get more opportunity over a longer game to see what this Abrams can do and where there's counterplay to it.
I think this Geist is nice as a sort of an answer to the Warden with all the uncontrolled damage Warden has. Now he does want to play at pretty close range. Could be potentially vulnerable to swap when he's too tanky to get through. Normally the swap can be that way to break it open. However, I like Dynamo's response. I think really strong against Geist. Abrams, and even could be a lockdown against Pocket, right? Like just to be able to black hole him.
But by the way, where's Paradox? Where's Holiday?
True.
Has anyone seen Paradox in Holiday?
It's actually crazy.
Hello? Milk carton? Anyone check?
No one is hard engaging. Also, Kelvin and Dynamo on the same team. That is a metric ass ton of healing. That is insane. Okay, so you got to ban the.
You got to ban Sinclair. Sinclair. These are like the 3 best ults to steal in the entire game of Deadlock. You have to ban Sinclair.
Oh man, yeah. Okay, so Kelvin Dynamo over like a 25-minute game can do like 30k healing. We've seen it in some previous games. So having them both is a rarity. I don't know, like how you build a comp around this, because obviously you do need some stopping power on this team, and you don't get it from either of those two unless there's like a world where we see a return to some kind of gun Dynamo build that sort of allows this pick actually to be more of a participant. But I'm not over the moon about it.
It's also
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, it's also like, I'm wondering who are they gonna heal, because we've got Shiv banned, Geist and Abrams on Hydra Nation squad. What's your frontliner that's gonna like soak these heals and actually use them, deploy them to dominate the competition, right? Like that's sort of the point, I think, of the healing drafts like Kelvin, is that you're like putting that steroid, putting all those heals into somebody who's already wanting to play that way. And I mean, I guess Warden is not terrible in that sense, but I don't think Warden is quite so needy for heals. I think he'd rather have catch.
You have front lines at premium because of those Yamato Shiv bands that are
There's like
coming on in here.
nothing left in front line.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. I'm literally don't. I'm drawing a blank as far as like what else you can draft for front line here.
You don't have much left at this point. That's just where it's at. And Abrams Geist is a perfectly respectable front line. You grab a Mirage, and Hydra Nation is just grabbing the DPS a little bit on the back end of the draft, healing wise. Maybe they're going to end up here with an Ivy, is kind of where I would expect this to go here, given that you have Dynamo and Kelvin off the table.
Mo and Krill? That's like as good as it gets you.
And a Paradox.
Now, yeah, we start going for these playmakers. I don't think Melee Creeps can afford another carry hero here. Obviously, there's the idea of going for the Holiday, but Kelvin, Dynamo, Holiday on the same team is where's the deeps at? Where is Hydra Nation? Get Mirage and Geist, like two of the most potent, just like consistent, sustained damage dealers in the entire game. With amazing catch potential, Abrams being busted as he is.
For so long.
What is this draft, man? This is crazy.
This is too much cooking. I think the Dynamo is a little too much cooking. I think the problem is that they picked the Kelvin with too many front lines banned or stolen from Hydra Nation. And then I don't hate the Dynamo, not from a healing perspective, but just in terms of like the Black Hole could be valuable. The AoE knockup could deal with, Geist and Abrams and make their life a little bit hard. But I feel that they didn't prioritize frontliners enough, and letting something like a Geist go the way of Hydra Nation was really their mistake here.
I feel like for Melee Creeps, in terms of how they're going to play this farm-wise, and look, when it was AVG and the Warden, they did do a really good job of funneling a lot of farm to AVG playing the Warden. But they're going to have to hyper-funnel the Warden here. And
Are we allergic to Calico on this team? Like, Calico is still up.
Well, the problem is with Calico is that, okay, you can build her a little bit more tanky, but
Oh boy.
Again. It was them. It was this team that last time picked Viper. The only other time that we've ever seen this hero in DFN. I'm certain of it. Hydration, I think, was playing it.
Well, it's a few extra times per the stats. We've been played 4 times, but
so
it doesn't happen
touched.
often.
I mean, this is the moment, right, though, a big new patch comes in, maybe where a creative build can really thrive on the Viper. I'm curious to see if it will be Hydration again, if somebody else will take the reins on Abrams. I think Abrams, of course, is just probably in a lot of players' hero pools in terms of like flexibility, comfort, since he's been around for so long.
Not me. I missed like 4 weeks, 6 weeks of DFN, being like, Viper's only been picked one other time.
Well, still, to be clear, when it's
talking about the split shot and also the bullet pen build that Viper can offer here, right? We were sort of theory crafting that earlier on, so I'm very, very curious to see if that works its way in.
It's going to be interesting to see how all this pans out. I mean, Viper is kind of one of those things where it could be good. Viper is kind of one of those characters where you can come up with item builds that might make Viper really nice. I mean, one of the baseline things would be Split Shot. Split Shot is probably pretty effective on Viper in her current form, and you can stack more gun items than you could before, or you can stack more survivability. We'll see, but I mean, the Viper could stealth be like an insane pocket pick.
I will say, I think it's just generally actually what Hydra Nation needed. I think this is less about Viper being a god hero or like a crazy cheese build, and more just like, okay, they kind of needed some really strong gun damage. They had a lot of frontline. They have the catch and the paradox and the mobility from Pocket and Mirage. And okay, like Viper actually just adds gun damage. It's kind of boring. It's not like a crazy game-winning play. But I think also, the Bola should stun, right? So isn't that like a reliable long-range cancel for the 7 ult and the Dynamo ult?
Yeah, I mean, in theory, yes, you can use it to interrupt those things and, of course, apply pressure mid-boss. But, Mitch, we're going to let you go for a moment. Anything striking out to you here as you look at the initial setup of the game?
The only thing I want to look out here on this Viper build I'm a little bit excited about is weighted bullets. I think that actually might be a reasonable item. Weighted shots, might be a reasonable item in Viper here. So we'll see if we get it.
It's a good call out. Could be interesting to see.
What worries me a little bit here, Jake, I'm not in love with putting Ward in middle. Like, if your game plan is to come in here and just, put the funnel in Warden's mouth and just continue to force feed him food like you're making foie gras later in the game, I don't know if middle is where you want to put the Warden, but maybe that's not the game plan.
Yeah, I think, now that you have the 7 as well, it does complicate things, who also wants to be, farming and does have a bit of carry potential in this game, like certainly could have a big game. I think my bigger question is really going to be the mid-game team fightings. I think when it comes to laning, I mean, that is scary. Like, think about last game where the laning just exploded for Hydra Nation and their advantage started so early, winning all 3 lanes. I think at the very least, melee groups rather just need to come out with stability and not be losing all their Guardians first. They need to at least be trading, keeping at least 1 or maybe 1.5 of these lanes like in a strong spot.
Also, in terms of interesting change-ups, we had Hydration playing the Abrams in the middle last lane or time around. This time, playing it in the left-hand side. Also, not going with the lane synergy. It's not with Lefa in this instance. Instead, lane partnering up here with Fishcake. So, the interesting change-ups here for Hydra Nation to me is just like where they're playing these heroes, and it's interesting to me too. Fishcake is spending time here, Jake, going for
is Fishcake box running? Yeah, like running. So early and just like so far away from the game. But I guess they just feel like, well, Hydration can just get every CS, no problem in the lane. He's not worried about it. Now Quig is in very deep. You're really in the wrong neck of the woods here on Quig.
Yo, power of Viper. Oh wait.
But yeah, no way.
Yeah, you get the parry, but Hydration there in the fall through. So that couldn't have worked out any better for Hydra Nation. You fed lane creeps to Hydration while Fishcake was on the box run. You try and contest Fishcake, and it just goes terribly wrong for you and ends up feeding even more farm to Hydration, who, already looking a little bit green right now, Jake.
Yeah, and I mean, talk about somebody you don't want to get farmed. Already got the headshot booster. And with shoving that wave in, created like the space and the time to go for that nice long box run. Very efficient laning here from Hydra Nation. I'm kind of curious to see how this develops, but already looks like souls-wise, it's going quite well for them. Seems like Quig has funneled a lot to Pashi Pop, though, who's also having quite a solid start, where Hydra Nation are splitting things a little bit more evenly.
Off here on the right-hand side. A little bit of pressure coming in here from low main. Over and on to Rokane. Where it's still kind of wild to me that we had our playmakers go so late into the draft. I mean, arguably, maybe it makes sense here, but I'm not convinced that some of the new things that are getting value are necessarily like that far behind. But in terms of the value of the Hydra Nation draft, they got Paradox what, like 5 or 6? It's kind of, I think it was 4 or 5. Still kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, very deep into the draft. Ido, solid lane so far here on the Lash. And melee creeps have definitely acquitted themselves well compared to like Valhalla last game, who are already kind of falling behind by this point. At this point, it's a 1K difference. I wouldn't call that really meaningful. There's going to be some power spikes, though, coming soon. When those ultimates get online, I expect that to be a very key moment. I think Poppers really needs to get that swap online to be able to endure through the dome, where Lomain is at a pretty nice lead there. I wonder if they want to just tempo it and go for the initiation as soon as they have dome online, if they can catch that window before Poppers is able to swap.
And generally speaking, the Kellen lanes will try and go for super early frozen shelter plays. Although, on the same note, the setup here is a little bit interesting. And already, we got John going in for the last stand and immediately just runs down Lefa. I was just looking at the top UI, it's like, he just popped it. What's going on there? Death is what's going on there, Jake.
Oh, Lomain playing that one a little bit too aggressive, just didn't quite have the ulti online. The way he was posturing, it looked like he was just assuming he would get it in that fight. Hydra Nation just stand and deliver. Ulti's not there in time. 7 ult, but he's not long for this world. Follow-up damage absolutely there. And I wonder, do you even get away from this on Dynamo? Need some clean wall bounces. Okay, seems like that will be enough. But they're also giving up quite a bit of lane creeps for this fight. Hydration's going to have free farm here for a moment.
And Hydration getting free farm, a little bit scary when you talk about impacts of economy allocation. One thing we didn't touch on is that Quig is back this week for melee creeps. Last week, Quig of course was off, and you had Rocker in on the substitution, and we didn't really hit on too much of that. But Quig has been a big part of melee creeps ascension. They weren't winning really until he got brought on in, and people really credit Quig's ability to shot call and be an in-game leader.
Which I will say is a tough moment for him. Is here, connection comes in, Lash hold as well, and with that dome, protecting everybody. So far, though, wasn't able to catch an enemy, so it's actually pretty lucky for Hydra Nation. They're able to slip out of that dome, stabilize. Still, the amount of HP they brought to bear on this lane. Rokane is so incredibly low. He's trying to defend, but it's a tough spot to be.
I don't know if you want to chase Viper into areas with stairs, generally speaking. Like that's actually one of those areas where Fishcake put themselves that pretty smart positioning-wise for Viper. Even more so than like following Abrams to the closing room. But okay, mid singularity, off, over. It's going to result in Lefa just immediately falling down in the middle lane. Looking pretty nice here so far. Melee creeps, and they get the last one, the Vegas right after. Not going to squirm your way out of that, even if you're pocket.
great fights all across the map all at once. Stabilize the game here for Melee Creeps. They're still a little bit low on a few players, but they're crashing waves on 2 out of 3 lanes. Kane goes down as well. Tried to overstay his welcome. Tried to defend that Guardian, but was on such low HP from the last play. Nonetheless, though, Viper and Fishcake and Hydration on the left lane are putting some pressure down on the Guardian. There's a lot of low players on Melee Creeps. I wonder whether they actually can respond to this. Right now, it's just 7 trying to make the hold, but he's all alone. That tower is getting a lot of damage.
Poshy Pop is just sitting here wondering, please, can I get a little bit of assistance? Meanwhile, though, we're taking a look here. Right-hand side, Hydra Nation going in for a little bit of invade. Onside Creep's going to get that rather successfully. Left-hand side, though, is pretty interesting, where, in a way, I almost feel like they've made peace with losing the Guardian here. They haven't shifted anyone back over the help, and that Guardian should be about to fall.
Yeah, I think 7 in the end doesn't really mind losing his Guardian. It's just going to allow him to farm a little bit more safely, and they want to just leave 7 alone. Seems like Poshy Pop's the one who's going to get the farm prio. Makes sense for the 7. Curious to see if we can check on Poshy Pop's build. Like, what is he maxing? Although, as I say that, though, fight potentially breaking out on the side lane.
And take a look here, off on the right. And Death Slam about to be back up here for Ido, where, you know, I'm curious to see how the Ido Lash performs, where I definitely think Ido's feeling a little bit of the burn from the draft, but Swap can be used here early in the fight here by Rokane. Rokane takes down Low Main with it, and as a result, just a quick look-see and back for Ido, who wants no part of it.
Yeah, they've punished him twice in the cooldown of Frozen Shelter. It's going to be back up when he's next into the fight. And John shuts down Hydration, who's having a much more difficult go of it this time. The very early Warden pick is paying dividends, and John's having an immaculate game so far. Not really getting the farm funnel, but just fighting it out and having success. Kind of the dream scenario, because that's created all this opportunity for 7 to really focus on jungling and clearing as many camps as possible. And even the threat towards the mid lane. Ulti trying to turn things around. Paradox in deep. And you have ulti for Calvin here if you even need it.
Okay, did he get him in, or did he get out again? Jake, he got out again. That is wild. And Quig ends up falling in the middle of the fight. The swap comes on in. That's twice that the Death Slam Shelter combo has just fell. Just horrifically wrong for Melee Creeps. I mean, there's no other way you could say it, but the lane has kind of been a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, that's something that shouldn't happen, right? Like, if you're able to lock him in the Frozen Shelter, almost certainly those are kills. Maybe that fight even goes differently, but he escapes. Hydra Nation bring numbers, and they turn it around, and that's supposed to be your major tempo advantage for Melee Creeps, is when you have that Frozen Shelter online in the early game. That's got to be a winning fight, because without it, you're pretty weak. Like, you are reliant when you go for these longer cooldown ultis, the Death Slam, the Frozen Shelter, that they are getting you enough of an advantage to bridge the gap on the cooldowns. Now Hydra Nation has secured themselves a tiny lead turning around that fight.
I mean, the other thing that's fueling Hydra Nation's lead here, too, is the fact that it's 2 Guardians to 0 here so far. They've already gotten their first flex slot. And I almost feel like if you're Saya and John in the middle, you're feeling a little bit bad, because the mid lane did their job and then some, but so far find themselves behind. John, though, going in once more. Gets the damage in from the jail. Keeps Barrage there for a moment. Off the tornado. They're not able to get the last hit, though, Jake. And John has to leave as some of the counter pressure comes on in. Buff, though, gonna be grabbed here by Hydration. Swinging away, looking for Ido. How far do you chase the slash? Gets hit with the Arctic Beam. It might just be on the way out here from the Kelvin pressure.
Abrams with the life buff surely is too difficult to chase into these small rooms, like, right? But Hydration just gonna settle for a bit of farm. Across the map, though, Hydra Nation continuing to keep the pressure on that left lane. Vegas gets the burst onto John and the mid tower. Elsewhere, Kelvin trying to find something, but the punishment now really starting to be piled on. Fishcake has come alive. Looks like he wants to take down 7, who really can't afford to lose. You've invested a lot of resources into this 7 in this game, a lot of farm priority. He's trying to stick around, trying to make the defense. He's so low. This is such a risky spot to be.
Yeah, and okay, you're putting a lot of farm right now in the Poshy. Let's see how that goes. Meanwhile, though, take a look at the Hydration camera right now. Swinging away into the parry, and still Low Main gonna fall from the rest of the damage that's going on. Not enough to save his life. And I do wonder if you consider buying Rebuttal on the other end and just trying to bait Hydration a little bit more when you got Abrams just opening every fight with pure-on fisticuffs.
You could, but I feel like what makes Rebuttal good, at least my theory craft, is that you would need to have a strong melee damage dealer to get value out of the counter melees coming in. And in the end, if Abrams is wall charging you, right, you're not going to parry him anyway. He's got the guaranteed melee on you. So I think it's kind of a tough situation. I think this is just Abrams is just really good right now. I don't know that that item is going to really be a hard counter. It might help you though in some of these marginal situations, maybe worth grabbing. Although we just really haven't seen many people going for value item pickups. It feels like everyone's kind of just going towards their build. Maybe like one healing item in the early game, maybe a mobility item. So this is nice, and Tornado should pretty comfortably get Leffa out of the scenario.
Uncharacteristic too from SciSci, usually spot on there, and Leffa wasn't doing anything ridiculous movement-wise, but Leffa was just moving in a straight line to the left from our perspective. So that was just what probably could have been a pick going awry there for melee creeps.
By the way, Fishcake and Vegas are both very farmed this game. Curious to maybe we can check the Viper at some point and look at that build. I kind of want to see what direction Viper's going, since we really have not seen this hero played, and obviously not on the new patch. Kind of interested to see what the mindset is, the theory behind this. Looks like a Tesla bullet. It's amplifying the farm speed. And Viper, I mean, think about this. Like, if you allow 7 to free farm, sure. But I feel like Viper can just farm so much more quickly, especially in the mid game. Maybe even 7 gets super stacked. It equalizes a little bit, but Quicksilver reload, the slide. I mean, the fact that Viper is able to take ancient camps that quickly this early on in the game, and Viper still has her Guardian online, gonna be able to start to steal some of the camps on the enemy side of the map would be big.
Hydration under a little bit of pressure in the middle. Ido, though, pretty down in this fight. Frozen Shelter could be popped on out early from low main. Don't think anyone was really trapped in there. It was more of a defensive Frozen Shelter. Vegas considering diving on in. Also, you know, as this fight kind of breaks to the wayside, one thing that's worth noting here too, I wasn't 100% sure because I thought it was the Icon at first, and as it turns out, it was the Icon. Pashi Pop went unstoppable. Mitch brought it up in our cast. I was like, is it really? It's like, yeah, I thought it was. It's
so
like
he must be doing the ult max build, right?
Yeah,
where you can.
It's still so early. Like, even if you're going alt max, you'd think you'd want a little bit more damage this early into the game.
Yeah, I think they do need to team fight really to get value out of it, because the thing about Unstoppable is not increasing your farm speed really at all. It's making you a more potent force in a team fight. But I'm worried because I feel like Hydra Nation has no intention of rushing a team fight. I think they're perfectly happy to play the farm game. They have Leffa and Fishcake both with a lot of late game potential. Vegas, I mean, honestly, everyone in Hydra Nation can scale to the late game. I don't think they're at all worried about farming up. And for melee creeps, they need to commit maybe for some early objectives. They haven't even taken a Guardian yet.
Well, Hydration going in for Kelvin.
Another miss on Lasso.
Again, the cold shoulder at the same time. Yeah, Lasso not going to hit. A little bit off for Sai here so far. The one thing we've seen once so far in the game on camera. I'm curious to see if we get any massive singularity plays. You know, one item that people weren't really sure on, that in theory you could see on Dynamo playing late game, while you're worried about healing tempo, there's also Vortex Web that's out and over there, but the spike gonna go on indoors, which makes sense. Petrify comes out. Okay, singularity in.
He's tanky.
They get down Hydration, but it's an effort there, Jake.
I mean, Hydration still gets to trade right under the black hole. Pashi Pop now, no unstoppable, chased down by Vegas. And Hydra Nation bringing numbers to bear in this fight. Across the map, I think Poppers is potentially killing John, forcing him back under the tower at least. Yes, you got the urn stolen away though for Saya, so that's a consolation prize. They should be able to get this turn in pretty easily, but he's so low. Maybe he doesn't want to take the risk with Fishcake in the neighborhood.
I think if you're Hydra Nation, you keep an eye on it and look to deny, but in the same note, you just go for, do Walker pressure at the same time. Like Hydra Nation, in theory, they could just give up urn and decide to go for Walkers. Yeah, Fishcake also. Hearing chatter from Mitch, like 17K on Fishcake right now, by the way.
You have no ultis on melee creeps. Really, you're relying on these ultis to be able to fight, and to have 0. I mean, Hydra Nation almost certainly knows this, and they're going to take more or less whatever they want throughout the map right now. You're still bringing 6 players, it looks like, to this fight for melee creeps, trying to make up for their disadvantage in farm by bringing all the numbers, but Hydra Nation read it and fall back. Another clean macro play.
Yep, so Hydra Nation, they decide to back out. Melee creep's going to get the urn turn in, which is pretty helpful. I mean, it does lessen the gap a little bit, but now you wonder, is this going to be the first death by lizard on the new patch, as Fishcake is looking pretty well farmed. Well, I mean, on the same note, you look over to the left-hand side, I mean, John still having a really nice game as far as soul allocation goes.
Yeah, he's pretty farmed. I'm curious to see what he's going to go, assuming he's saving for a 6K item here. Could sell that monster rounds and transition towards something a little bit more powerful for the late game. But the macro lead is super scary right now.
You got to think Magnum would be coming on up here. I mean, there's a lot of ways to play the game right now, and I don't think item builds are set in stone.
He's got his ulti max, so that does also suggest there's a chance that you could do something more optimized for the ulti, but he's caught in the room. Oh, barely dodges past Hydration. I don't know how he slipped out past that Abrams.
Yeah, it's a little bit ridiculous. And okay, Hydra Nation still gonna try to make something happen. Affliction gonna get dropped by Vegas in the back, hits on 2. And John still wants to fight here. Affliction or no, goes for the last stand, dives back on out. Last stand though, gonna be gone. Saya already dead. Down 1 is Melee Creeps here. Meanwhile, another walker getting going down as Pasha Pop goes to the sky. Everyone just walking away here, Jake. Just walking away.
Ulti's coming up though for Quig and Lomain. These could be the powerful team fight ultis they need to potentially turn this game around. John so low. Here's the connection though. Coming in. Stun on the Hydration. Just barely enough to get him over the line. Everyone's so low on Melee Creeps though. Fishcake's here to feast on them. So fed right now on this Viper. Such a powerful hero when you're chasing enemies down. And I think you're going to be able to get everyone here on Fishcake and then now potentially turn your sights to the mid Guardian. Oh, the ulti is, I think this is a team wipe, more or less.
Just throwing the petrifying bola all the way to the top. Looking for the dynamo on top of it. Is Quig going to be able to find a way out? The
the bridge too far. Saya's back with the lasso. Maybe can find some kind of a catch. So Fishcake makes the read there to not overplay the hand. But looking very potent here on this Viper, getting that gun build heavily online. Thinking about whether they want to buy an item. Looks like they're going to be saving for a 6K. Curious to see if it'll be like that armor-piercing rounds. Maybe the threat of, someone was saying in the chat, which actually, because I'm pretty interested to see if they go the armor-piercing rounds, you could deal damage to people who are petrified by piercing their 100% bullet resistance.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those items that, assuming it's still, or it will work in that sort of way that, yeah, I mean, it could be pretty powerful. We'll see. I think there's interactions that probably have not been fully explored yet, given the newness of the patch. But Hydra Nation now, right now, on the setup.
I like the trophy collector on Saya. That's pretty interesting. Like scaling with kills and assists.
Yeah, I think it's a good item for anyone that's trying to be active in the game. And okay, Frozen Shelter forced up pretty early here from Lomain.
Really defensive shelter. I guess it just saves you from the swap, but that's a long cooldown to be deploying in that way. And it is the Magnum here for John.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of expected. Again, even though a lot is still to be figured out, Magnum on face value just seems like too good of an item, especially for War. It's one of those times where someone was playing, it almost feels like someone's playing Warden on the dev team is like, yeah, this is good. Like this does everything you need. But
Unstoppable on Fishcake is a big pickup though. Like that is it's like your biggest weakness on Viper is being controlled, right? And so Fishcake prioritizing the tankiness. That signals to me that Fishcake is ready to start really participating in team fights and really start leading the charge, being able to tank through some of these control ultis is what you need to do to be able to make your damage meaningful, so you're not just like killed off and focus fired at the start of the fight.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of interesting to see the bring back of Unstoppable, which is kind of the meta for a while in last patch. But all right, both teams looking at each other here and now. Quig has the singularity, good to go. Death Slam over in on the Abrams. Hydration hitting the evac button of Seismic Slam up over the top. Singularity though, maybe on the menu here for Quig. Drops it. Hydration again, the one being focus fired, took down John in the melee and just does not go down at all. The tankiness of Hydration, ridiculous in the moment. It's a net loss for Melee Creeps so far. 6 on 5, likely about to lose the Walker on top of it, and that is brutal, Jake.
Yeah, Fishcake's hunting for more now, diving in, cleaning up the Kelvin. A couple players down. Should be a free mid boss if you even want it here. Hydration gonna grab the Sidewalker as well, and I'm not sure there's even gonna be a rebuttal here. Ido's coming to the lane, but doesn't have Death Slam. And Lefa's long gone. Looks like it'll be a Spirit Urn prioritized by Hydra Nation. Kind of surprised they don't go for the mid boss here.
Right now they may not need to, but this gives us a little bit of a lull in the gameplay, so good time to tap back in, Mitch. And Mitch, what are you loving right now?
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm loving what we're seeing from Hydra Nation so far. It's definitely clear that they've been putting the work in on this new patch. I think like we got Sire on screen right now. They've struggled, honestly, and they've really invested quite heavily in a lot of like these spirit items, or at least like spirit burst on hit, but like no rescue beam, they're really looking for, or no sort of like alchemical fire. So it's a bit of a different direction to take this build in, if I'm honest with you. And we still haven't really seen this Dynamo and this Holiday plus the Kelvin combo work out. Big healing, theoretically a lot of utility, but it's not converting.
You know what else is not converting right now, Jake? Look at this.
Did you just see that item pick up the cheat death on Pocket? Oh boy, it's like the good old times, the soul revival. Pocket is going to be so unkillable.
But Jake, also, Pocket may be unkillable from the fact that the lassos and the frozen shelters just have not been landing this game from melee creeps.
Yeah, a lot of misses on those. Yeah, you're exactly right. Big ulti here from 7. He's pretty low. Ooh. Getting tanked up a little bit, but I don't think you have the HP. Yeah, guys are just going toe-to-toe. The shelter trying to stabilize. It's not enough, and this game is looking to be over right now. Hydra Nation, huge lead. Snowballing forward. Everyone else is forced out. Rocane as well cleaning up the mid wave, and that should be a free opportunity for mid boss if you want it for Hydra Nation.
I think this time they want it, but also I like the execution of that from melee creeps. The problem is the stat difference, it's too much. It is far too much. I think the play of just dropping the quantum entanglement mid storm cloud actually pretty good for getting into a slightly better spot, getting maybe a little bit more damage off and releasing a little bit of pressure on the 7. But the problem is you are down too much economy wise, but okay, steal attempt coming on in, and no, not gonna happen. Instead, it's a quick high buy from Saya. Emphasis on the buy.
Yeah, and that's pretty painful because the pick-off threat from Lasso is probably one of your stronger tools when it comes to counter pressure. Now, melee creeps, they have good base defense, right? If they can get like a big Lash Ult, Warden Ult type of a combo, they can maybe make some kind of a base defense happen. But I think Hydra Nation are going to be more than happy to just play the map here. And Vegas is like so annoying. He can clean waves. How do you kill this Pocket? I mean, having cheat death is, I think, so potent on this character because you're not relying on your move speed to get you out. You just cape out at the end of the cheap death.
You go back to the draft and you pick up either Shiv if he's not banned or GT, and then you ignore cheat death and nullify completely as an item. But with those heroes not available, cheat death can be pretty good. I think it may be a little bit expensive for what it does, but for Pocket, I think potential could be pretty high. But Hydra Nation now gonna flex the Rejuvenator a little bit more. Looking at the base of melee creeps, they get John down first. Most farm on their team. The ultimate comes on into the singularity. Is Falter gonna be there? They get 2 right off. The Wombo combo of melee creeps does strike a little bit deeply in the Hydra Nation, and one of the heroes they took down was Fishcake. All that farm just dead to the black hole.
Yeah, the base defense looks good. Pashi defending, tanking through everything, but the damage a little bit too much. Affliction now. Let's see Vegas. Can he play his way out of this? Rescue beam pulled back. Still fighting. Still a big threat, I think. And yeah, it seems like melee creeps are going to be just taking their win and backing off. Getting the 2 kills, 2 for 2. Very strong winning trade here. But Hydra Nation don't want to let them get the reset. They're going to be going in, trading yet more, trying to play off these
they lose 2
fast respawns. I mean, Fishcake is coming back, though. They're going to get objectives off this. It's expensive, but they're going to take objectives.
Yeah, it goes 2 for 2. I think even though Hydra Nation is getting objectives here, I kind of like melee creeps at least being able to get a little bit in return. They're still really behind, don't get me wrong, especially like losing another 2 here. It's still tough, but for being down, they've played this about as well as I could. John now, last stand, just getting crunched at his own base. You know, that being said, the last shrine is going to go down. First stage patron, about to lose his throne, turn into a ball.
I wonder if you even spawn in time on melee creeps. Like some of these longer spawns, John, Ido, I don't know if they're going to be in this fight. I think Hydra Nation can stay. They're healthy on most players. Vegas almost has that next ulti up. We could just see a good old-fashioned throne race right now. Patron just being focus fired if you want it. Hydra Nation, though. No, they're going to go in. I mean, Viper is just... oh, no, Viper. They're doing crazy permanent slide.
Hydra Nation, 1 step closer to retaking the throne, taking the first map away from melee creeps. And that's right, they do it with the Viper.
And Fishcake looked great that game, not only getting ahead in the farm, but also making some key appearances in the mid-game team fights, cleaning up, creating bigger opportunities, and then that was like kind of a brute force ending from Hydra Nation. It's like typically we see people maybe take some base guardians and back off. Maybe, oh, you lose a couple players. Okay, maybe we'll just take the reset and farm the map. And no, Hydra Nation just keeps doubling down. Despite having some lower number situations, they just still have the confidence. They play the tempo of those faster respawns from the rejuve really well and forcing the end of the game, full control.
Okay, we got to bring Mitch back in here. And Mitch, we've been looking at new content to do for DFN, things like, featured item build series. But one thing I realized looking at, my own personal reaction, the reaction of chat and everything else is that if we did a featured item build and we went on Pashi Pop 7 based on performance of this game, we would lose subscribers. We would lose support. That is how much chat was not loving the unstoppable rush on 7.
There are, Yeah, so Poshy is not investing in any of those tier 2 or tier 3 items. It's Unstoppable first and then Lightning Scroll straight after that. So you're rushing for consecutive of these items. Now, Lightning Scroll is kind of good because after 3 seconds of being affected by someone's ult, you get stunned. So it adds this like stun component to Storm Cloud, which is obviously really effective. But the problem is that Poshy basically has a huge power trough until he's able to get those items like built up. Now Lightning Scroll at least has like a component that builds out of it, so like you are at least getting something midway along the way. But you notice that like you have bullet resist and you have Unstoppable, but I was watching like every hit of a barrage going into the 7, right? And Vegas just having this ridiculous damage amp, or just Popper's just like blammoing him over and over again. Gabagool, baby, blam, blam, like just shooting down at the guy and blowing him up. And Hydra Nation, they take 3 Guardians early. Then they funnel the farm from those lanes into Fishcake, into Poppers, and into Vegas. The rest of them are bouncing in between those lanes. And when you've got Hydration of Rocane, amazing roamers setting up these initiations with Leper being able to TP across the map to be wherever he needs to be, it's kind of the perfect mid-game transition plan for Hydra Nation, which is exacerbated by the fact that Poshy Pop's build, I think, really is playing for getting both of those tier 4s online. This is the gatting of the century. Like, look at this. Even with bullet resist, you're getting absolutely owned. And this like really heal heavy composition of Quick and Low Main probably requires like healing tempo to be good. I'm not really sure, but they did well. I think the Wombo combo is very potent, right? Death Slave in a singularity, it's very good. But if Hydration survives that, he immediately heals back up with the melee, and then he's good to go.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to those early game fights, though. For me, like what I remember most painfully for melee creeps is Ido and Lomain going for those early game catches, Death Slam into Frozen Shelter, and just not catching the target they're going for. That shouldn't really be happening, right? And I think maybe a few of those fights go a different way. We could have seen a bit more of a snowball get rolling. We could have seen 7 hit more of the potential power peak. John as well had some solid team fights on the Warden, so wasn't hopeless for melee creeps, but the early game execution was pretty painful.
And like, what is the Holiday doing here? Like, we see a bunch of like missed lassos. Zaya's build as well as like, it's not utility oriented whatsoever, probably because they're like, we have a Dynamo and a Kelvin on our team,
Yeah.
but no gun investment really whatsoever here for the Holiday. And it's very much, so basically Hollow Point Ward, right, as we all know, is the item that like gives you extra damage when you're above 65% health. That item's actually been split into 2 now. Enchanter's Emblem and Battle Vest, right? So one gives bullet resist, the other spirit resist. One affects your weapon damage, one affects your spirit. So the Enchanter's Emblem is getting picked up by Saya. Like a lot of those like, decent spirit power items, but I don't know about you guys. The spirit Holiday didn't exactly tickle me.
Well, the thing for me is that I think it's hard to tell how much was on the Spirit Holiday, regardless if it was a good idea or a bad idea, and how much was, to me, it was more so in the execution, where if you are playing Holiday, so much of your tempo in the game is so incredibly important on landing your lassos, and you can have a miss here and there, but it felt like we saw something like 3 or 4 misses in a row. The alt execution from Lomain was also just not there. I mean, you could fault where it was between the Lash and the Kelvin in terms of interactions there, but the reality was that, especially in the early to mid game, you were getting Death Slam into Frozen Shelter, except that you'd look at the Frozen Shelter and be like, where'd he go? And Rocane was somehow getting out of these attempts. He was, most often the main target. So when I look at this, especially the early to mid game execution was just not up to the usual standard that we see from melee creeps. So for me, even if they were to run back this exact same draft, which I don't think they're going to do, by the way, I would still expect them to bounce back in the next game because, whether you want to call it just getting into the groove again or just they, super low rolled this game in terms of how things panned out, it was uncharacteristic for so many things to just miss on an execution level.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think they also, you look to the late game, some nice comeback fights from a really like almost unwinnable position, huge deficit, and they are executing pretty well, making the comeback fights, later in the game with the Lash into the black hole. And I'm like, honestly, so for me, like I see the vision behind this draft, trying to have like this indomitable team fight if all the pieces come together. If you have a bit of a better early game, a couple more pickups from Holiday, the Lash was connecting, a couple more of these ult combos in the early game from Lash and Kelvin getting you the picks, maybe you're hitting your stride a little bit earlier into the game with getting those incredible wombo combos of ultis that to actually be in the game before, you know, your 40k souls down. Maybe this is a different sort of a game. So that being, I kind of see your point, ZP. Like, I think there's an argument for melee creeps that this draft can work if it's executed differently, but that's a scary spot to be going into game 2 of just saying like, okay, we're not going to mess up this time. I mean, it takes a lot of confidence to do that.
Well, that is our first map done and over with. Hydra Nation, they've been our champions of North America in the past, and they're making the strongest case right now that they may be on the way back. Hydra Nation, Melee Creeps, map 2, coming at you just after this. Number 25, Deadlock Fight Night. That's our 25 shows, and it may be the time for Hydra Nation to retake the crown here and now. A dominant first map coming up against Melee Creeps. The Melee Creeps, they've been the champion the last month for a reason. ZP here, Jake and Mitch once again. And Mitch, we've seen this story a lot here. Hydra Nation, they have a tough time. They make roster changes. They come back. They take the crown. Maybe same old, same old.
Yeah, like I just think the idea that they're building their comps on just fits a little bit more with where the game is at right now. They're prioritizing managing to get Abrams into these games. I also think the pocket's looking really quite useful for them. We saw the cheap death get picked up, which is a ton of fun. Does remind me of the Soul Revival, being able to have a second bite at the apple, so to speak. Whereas I think we started to see the vision, honestly, of this Melee Creeps composition towards the end of the game. This wombo combo, throwing people into a singularity that lets you play from up to like 40k souls behind, it seems, is very powerful. But if you don't catch enough people in that wombo, if it doesn't quite go off the way you want it to, you're probably going to get steamrolled. And for Melee Creeps, it happened inside their own base.
I will say, in defense of this like idea of playing for the wombo combo strat, one thing that has been pretty significantly changed map-wise is the base defense itself, where it feels a lot more viable to defend the base. Like where I felt like the defender's advantage wasn't as strongly realized in the previous versions of the map, where yeah, you're defending the base, you might be able to defend, but actually killing the attackers for daring to step up felt a little bit more difficult, where now I feel there's a lot of angles of attack as a defender. The attackers are forced into some compromising positions. And so there's something to be said for running a draft that plans to, in some sense, to play from behind. But of course, I think Hydra Nation found the nice answer in getting the rejuve and just continuing to like throw bodies into the fight, knowing that like, look, you guys are running out of ultimates. We're going to respawn faster than you. We're ahead of you in souls.
Whatever.
But you could easily see, like you were saying, like 1 or 2 more catches with some of these big ultis. Maybe that strat doesn't work out. Maybe you do get the base defense and turn things around.
Here's why I got a question of, does LeBron get the ball? Does Ido get to play pocket, or will it be a first pick Yamato? Because you think about Ido's historical hero pool, Lash usually isn't where you want to put Ido. His comfort zone, pocket, Yamato. And I feel like LeBron's not getting the ball, and it's gone. The ball has been taken away, and it's probably a first pick Yamato for Melee Creeps, where it's just, it's the curse of Ido that you get here.
I mean,
I will say, I think Ido wasn't bad on Lash last game. Like, I feel like he set up a lot of these combos pretty well, had some good team fights. The combos with Kelvin not going off in the early game, arguably, I feel like you blame Kelvin on that. Maybe it's a communication issue of them not knowing where he's going to ult the person to, but it's kind of up to Kelvin to catch. And I mean, they are going to grab the Yamato, so assuming this is going to be for Ido, securing a comfort pick.
This leaves holes, I think, in your draft strategy, though. I think any situation where you've got to prioritize a hero that I just don't think is first pick or bannable is obviously not great. It's going to allow Hydra Nation with 2 picks here, basically to get exactly what they want. Let them probably snap up that early Abrams again if they want to. The Geist, I think, has just been low-key so oppressive and so powerful. Every game, top hero damage by far. Last game was absolutely no exception. Popper's absolutely pounded in that game. So it just seems like...
Would hate to see both.
Yep. Oh, God, yeah.
Well, also,
Abrams.
I think the frontliners are slightly at less of a premium here just because you haven't banned 2 of them in the draft, but the fact remains is that it's still a pretty good frontline to secure early on if they decide to go for the Abrams, and they're going to do it. The only upside here for Melee Creeps, though, as we turn back around, it's not green this time. Abrams isn't green, so,
Okay, it's blue Abrams, guys. It's chill. We can win. We can win.
Exactly.
He's not hulking out yet.
Yeah, dude, I again, I think like now at least Melee Creeps' real draft can start. I think so. Like think back like a lot of the options that were available. Like, do we really think they want to double up on Dynamo and Kelvin? like maybe they save a ban for one of those and have like one premier healer in their comp. But you know, Kelvin is pretty absurd with what he can do, and he doesn't actually need a healing tempo to have ridiculous like heals from multiple grenades over the course of the game. Whereas, you know, Dynamo becomes truly insane with that particular item. So Warden take here. This does leave Sinclair available, gives you those super oppressive lanes and the potential to copy this last game.
I think you got to take Kelvin. Yeah. I think giving Hydra Nation Kelvin with the Abrams guys is like illegal. You can't do that. That's terrifying. And I mean, I still think maybe this will be a better Kelvin game with the Warden Yamato. I mean, you think about Frozen sheltering in enemies with these two heroes. Very challenging to stand into the amount of damage that they can put down. There's something like, you could like almost like guaranteed Warden trap on somebody if they're caught in the Frozen shelter. So I actually see the vision already of these first three for melee creeps coming together pretty well. Paradox comfort choice here for Hydra Nation, but I'm curious to see if Saya will go for the redemption arc on the holiday. Hydra Nation, though, could easily just ban it out here.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think there's any redemption arc for the holiday. I think even though you look at Saya and you go, wow, you missed a lot of last game, you don't expect Saya to have that level of performance again. I think Saya would revert to the mean. But if you're Hydra Nation, you can shut it down here and now by getting rid of the holiday and making sure Melee Creeps doesn't have that level of initiation. But also at this point, they go, we don't want to deal with Wraith, where Wraith, of course, is higher power in this patch than she has been previously. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense because I think Wraith is one of the few characters right now that when farmed can absolutely just rip through an Abrams or a Geist in a way that a lot of other characters can't. So that makes sense to me, but I do think now for melee creeps, as we go to the turn, probably likely to pick up the holiday.
I need to get some more training in.
Viper ban.
Oh. Viper ban. Okay. I mean, Fishcake actually had such a great game in that first game. I wonder, Hydra Nation, is there any appetite for the double initiator to deny it away here? I'm also surprised they didn't do the opposite ban and ban holiday and grab the Wraith for themselves. I think it would have been. I mean, I think Wraith just looks really good to me from EU, but we'll have to see what the prio is. I wouldn't hate stealing the double initiator though. I think that could be a good way to pick apart some of this team fight threat from Kelvin. They're going to go for Mirage. Mirage has been fantastic on it.
Far out. I mean, you've got two incredible like soul recipients here on those outer lanes, and the people that would just I tell you what, melee creeps have to end the fights in seconds. They need to be over very quickly. They will lose any sort of protracted engagement at roughly equal souls as Hydra Nation. They have unbelievable sustained output here. You know, and I wonder like if what an N18 think about the haze, excuse me, is Vindicta's a bit of an eyebrow raiser, yeah.
Well, actually, I think Vindicta has been underpicked right now. I still think when you look at the changes to the game and the fact that heroes have more HP, I think Crow build Vindicta is probably pretty good right now. So it's been a little bit surprising to me that Vindicta's been a little bit shuffled to the side based on how good just a full Crow build Vindicta.
I think Vindicta needs a reimagining because Vindicta was one of like the prime shield abuser heroes, right? In the old patch of like you build both shield items, and now that shields are gone, I think it just maybe requires a new perspective. Maybe, I mean, you're not wrong. I think the percent damage is a little bit better, but I think it hurts a little bit more to lose arguably the most core double shield builder of anyone in the game in the old item patch was probably Vindicta.
And she does percent current health, not max health. So obviously like it's not something that's effective against those ultimately like very tanky heroes, but still able to like chunk pretty well. It gets less effective as the targets are at lower health, right? But of course, she's got other parts of her kit for dealing with executes, like the literal assassinate that she has. So, that's all well and good. Ivy, again, we talked about this before. Like healing tempo is like very reasonable option on this, and also the ultimate has been buffed just with like debuff remover not being a thing. So,
I have a question. Are they ridiculous enough to even go for something like a Dynamo as the final pick here? I'm thinking here is that, okay, they could go frontline, they could grab something like a Calico, they could go the 7, or if for whatever reason they have someone else that can play the Kelvin other than Quig, they could go for the Dynamo and still like go, hey, we still think this hero is really strong right now. It could have been more of a pick of faith on the idea of like, we just think it's good. It
could also just be like a 7.
Be double support, but yeah, I mean, it could just be 7 for Pashi, and it is going to be a 7 for Pashi. So
I think Pashi was unfairly maligned in the last game. I think if maybe going the Unstoppable first was a mistake. Maybe he should have gone like Lightning Scroll first and just been a little bit risky in terms of the item build. But I do think Lightning Scroll 7 sounds insane to me. Like in theory, if you're not only damaging the whole team, but then you're stunning them. If there's follow-up connections, I think in theory this can be super potent. Hydra Nation, they do have the Lash Hold as a way to shut that down, but not the best combos or the stuns otherwise. Maybe, I mean, you get Hydrate or Abrams rather, assuming it's hydration, but you could get Abrams to get a Phantom Strike as a way to knock down the 7. But there's definitely going to be some fights here where if Melee Creeps gets the initiations they want, they have really powerful AoE ultis, really strong team fight ultis, where Hydra Nation, I think, are going to be more about the pickoff, going to be more about playing the map. And that has been, I guess, the dichotomy between these two teams, both teams doubling down on their bread and butter. Melee Creeps want a team fight, Hydra Nation want to play for the individualism.
I mean, look, really quickly, I just think that this time, you are not going to have a Melee Creeps team that has really low damage in general, right? I think like the Unstoppable Rush 7 on a team that is not building much damage and has double healer feels extra bad. But here, like between the Warden, the Yamato, and the Vindictor, I don't think you have to stress so much about that. So there's a world where like the Unstoppable first item doesn't really cause a power trough on your side of the map at a really important point in the game anymore.
I'm looking at this now, and I'll be honest, maybe this is a little bit bullish and maybe too much respect towards how Melee Creeps was played in the last month, but I look at this draft, and I think so long as Hydration doesn't get super far ahead early, and oh, the parry coming in from Saya, keep himself in a good spot. I think so long as Hydration doesn't get ultra far ahead, I actually think Melee Creeps may win this game. Like if you put it on here, I don't think it's a massive advantage, but I'd say 60-40 Melee Creeps if Hydration isn't huge by like 10 minutes in. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I see the vision of their draft too. I think there's definitely a lot more of a clear road to victory. That being said, I think Hydra Nation is also playing incredibly well. As much as I want to give a lot of credit to like Melee Creeps recovering things, making some of those fights good. In the end, game 1 was like not only a lane stomp, but then into a snowball into like pretty strong control of the game for Hydra Nation. And I think if they can just repeat that success, maybe they, can continue to dominate.
Some of the lane stuff already going a little bit better for Melee Creeps this lane, particularly you take a look at what's going on to the right here. I mean, yeah, no one's dead here yet, but to get this level of life lead on a Geist this early, I mean, it's pretty promising for how you're looking at the lane dynamics taking place, especially because you're looking at there. I don't know if the Paradox is going to necessarily bail out here, where, again, they go with the same lane that worked really well the last time around, Jake, with the Warden Holiday lane. They just put it in the side lane this time.
Yeah, I think it's strong. I think it's hard for somebody like Geist to deal with that level of spam, and the Paradox control sets up for potentially some of the combos with Warden, making it hard for Geist to walk up and do the poke damage that you kind of want to do, or to commit in for like a life leech under the threat of a Warden trap. And this pressure on the lane is creating a little moment here for Saya to go get a quick box run out. So you're going to see how many teams and players are starting to weave that in. It looks like something that I think for me, for sure, I'm going to start implementing more in my games. It's like when you have lane prio and you're pushing under the enemy tower, or at least just shoving a wave in, just doing a quick box run, getting just that little bit of extra efficiency in the early game.
I think it's nice too, because it also gives you cover if you ever go for an early gank. We haven't really seen teams go for that yet, but when you're off map for that long, it's good plausible cover. Meanwhile, Hydration trying to kick things off with a bang. Not quite going to connect here, taking quite a bit of poke damage in turn. So see how this Yamato Vindicta lane works out well, where it's, I think this is also kind of an interesting lane where if it gets ahead, Jake, I think it's actually going to be difficult to deal with, but also would struggle if it got behind.
Oh, big connection here. They're caught in a very compromising position. Vindicta's just pouring on damage from above. Yamato could die for these burst kills. Maybe a little bit scared at the moment, but Lefa is going to have to hold his own for a while. Hydration just needs to hide and heal up.
The pressure coming in mid lane, pretty good here so far. Not giving Hydration the freebie lane that he had in the last game. So, I mean, just for a laning state alone, this has felt like a more competent game so far out of Melee Creeps, where they're not quite feeding the same amount of kills. They're maintaining lane presence more. It might not be a lane where we're 10 minutes in and you see Melee Creeps already down 2 Guardians.
Oh man, that Spirit Lifesteal on Mirage is actually insane for laning, right? Because it just hitting a left click on somebody is going to proc. That's a lot of regen you're going to be able to get and constantly keep up in these lanes. So yeah, this is kind of crazy. I think this is why Love was able to endure a lot, is like this item looks so sick on Mirage.
Also, you got the Hydration Lefa Dream Team combo back in the play in the middle, where middle lane very,
I think they can recover this lane, actually. I think they have the tools to stabilize this. But they need to get, I think, to the moment of maybe getting some ultis online.
Meanwhile, take a look back over here in the left lane. Melee Creep's going a little bit deep. However, Saya As we're looking at the left, over on the right, things going awry for melee creeps. Lose Saya, and what did they give up in turn? They gave up some Geist HP and some Paradox HP. Actually, not as bad as it may seem there, Jake, because they're gonna have advantage once you get back in the lane.
Yeah, Geist though with the swap, right, can be a problem. And John got really low trading here. Doesn't really have the tools to sustain so much in this lane. It's just the regen. I wonder if he's gonna go with a heal right or something to try and just restabilize the lane. Mobility, nice grab for Lash here. Kelvin coming in to take that contest. I don't know if you want the fight against Lash though in the open.
Well, you go for it, and he jumps on down into the frozen barrier though, so a lot of the damage going to get healed back up. Does get the cooldown out of Quig. See if Quig gets a little bit of support. You see Pashi Pop rotating on over. Same for Vegas in turn. So 2 rotations coming on. Meanwhile, they grab Pop as they gotta get the kill though before the swap. They don't! Lives in the lasso for just long enough for the swap to come out for Poppers. The follow through was not there.
Nice catch by Rokan, right? By pulling Saya back, you can't take the lasso in deep. Poppers has time to get the swap and stabilize. But farm-wise, despite the fact that quite a few kills in the last couple minutes have gone the way of Hydra Nation, farm-wise, it's been very strong for melee creeps. They're almost even here, down a couple K. Ulti over the top here from 7, clearing waves, doing a bunch of damage. Heavy commitment here, risky play though, jumping into the 7, taking a lot of damage on that. But Pot Shop is ultimately going to be forced back.
Yeah,
if he's able to live, hold on.
Yeah, Fish Cake might have it. Fish Cake smells blood in the water, and that's the type of game sense, Jake, that you really only develop after playing Lash for just a ridiculous amount of time for what has now been about a year, really, since the first people were led into the Deadlock test, so it makes sense.
Guy's gonna go 1v2 here, swap on a Warden. Paradox is incredibly low. The ulti, you've got to run from this. Oh, they're just getting absolutely smoked. John and Saya get the cleanup on the wave. I think speed zips are available though. It's a little scary to siege the tower.
Sometimes, Jake, that's the curse of the early Geist, or the early Geist swap, where you drop swap, it's on a cooldown forever, and no one respects you anymore as Geist when your swap is on cooldown. And in that case, they had last stand up, they're just able to run at Geist. And same deal here where Poppers may be coming back in the lane, but you're not really that afraid while swap is on cooldown.
Yeah, just gonna be time to farm here. Nido finds another kill there. Great start for the Yamato so far. Dropping the Guardian as well in that left lane, supported by the Kelvin, and they're putting some resources into Ido. They're paying off for the moment. Catch onto Lefa, who looks to be in deep trouble here. Tornado not quite up in time.
Mitch also making a point here, who's looking at the items in turn that we get for Ido. We got an express shot Ido, even as low main gets caught here in the middle. A little bit of punchy punch coming in from Hydration, forcing back Pashi in the moment. But Pashi also still takes down Rokan while Hydration's reorienting, so still not the worst from middle. But the express shot from Ido, kind of interesting to see how that's going to work out for Yamato.
Headhunter online for Hydration, a little bit of a power peak here. See if they have the catches. They want to take the fight into the Yamato. It's a little risky here for Hydration, considering does he want to recommit. Gonna go for it. Yamato ulti running out. The melee trade. Ido a little bit stronger. Probably happy to get a kill before dying there.
Yeah, I mean, not the worst if you're Ido in that situation. You get the trade out. Also, we're going to take a moment to just look at soul allocation here. John looking pretty well fed at the moment. Significantly better ramp as Warden than he had in the previous game. The closest ramp on the other side is actually Vegas on the Ivy.
Yeah, John has had some really strong games in the Warden. Definitely a comfortable pick for them. A lot of ultis down on the side of Hydra Nation. See if that means melee creeps want to take the fight. Right now, they're not giving up the Walker, making the defense. But in committing for this, Paradox incredibly low. Seems like you might be getting finished off. Running away, yeah, no escape here from Ido. Yeah, even Abrams, I don't think you can stick around for this.
Oh, the express shot actually doing significant amounts of damage, chasing down Hydration. No fear whatsoever. Maybe should fear the life leech a little bit, but for now, staying on in. Gonna get a little bit of support here from Quig coming on, up and over. Hydration still on the menu, and down he goes, unable to get away. And a much, much better mid game here so far, Jake, from melee creeps, both in execution, in rotations, and I think a draft that, so far has been much more to their benefit. And Ido's going in. Is he going to grab it? Sees perhaps a little bit of weakness here and does.
Nice catch. That's big for Ido, and Quig a little bit more expert hands here, holding on to the Kelvin, paying dividends for the moment. Connection comes in from the lasso. Do they have the follow-up to get the burst kill? Seems not quite yet, and Hydration is back, so maybe Melee Creep's low on a lot of players here. It's getting a little scary. Ido's extremely low, despite the fact that he's popped that Shadow Transformation. He's gonna dive in.
Yeah, and you actually saw in the body language from Hydration there, where the Shadow Transformation comes in, Hydration just immediately tries to double dodge it out, knows it's not a winnable fight. Ido still brawling off here in the corner, wants a little piece of Ivy right now. Power Slash takes down Vegas, and the last 3 minutes have been the Ido show. Gets a little bit of life leech. He's going in for another flying strike. It'll rotate and finally goes down. Dear Lord, that was a stretch there, Jake.
Quig caught in trouble, playing from multiple sides. Gotta pump the Frozen Shelter, and only you're kind of low here on Paradox to swap through, though. That's going to be enough to stabilize this, and surely Quig is going to be going down eventually. So Hydra Nation just keep doubling down into this engagement with the help of the global teleport from Leffa. Eventually it pays off. A couple parting kills. I mean, that's a bloodbath right there. Both teams coming out bruised. Hydra Nation just a little bit behind in terms of the souls.
I think what's a little bit scary for Hydra Nation is you look at who's getting the farm from melee creeps. Oh, right. It's John the Warden and Ido on the Amato. A little bit of a problem where, yeah, I mean, you've farmed up your Geist and your Mirage to a decent extent, but you don't love a front line looking this scary that early. And Saya on target again, able to get in, gets the lasso in on the fish cake. Is fish cake going to get out? Answer looks like yes, but still, Saya landing every lasso that we've seen so far in this game, Jake.
Yeah, nice recovery there from a tough game one, showing that he's still a big threat on this character. Still a comfortable combo for him. Swap just barely off target there. Saya happy to get out for that one.
Looking here, back over on left-hand side, a little bit of farming in the garage. Where, you know, a little bit of comfort for Leffa, knowing that he doesn't have to worry about an Abrams just showing up. Still, look at the garage, you just get flashbacks of last game, but melee creep's pretty stable right now. Nursing a decent lead with good allocation, and now looking for Poppers. Poppers does swap online. So are they going to be able to get the kill? I don't think they care about the swap here, Jake. I think they think, okay, we'll just burst down in the course of the Frozen Shelter. Still staying here on the guys. Kelvin getting a little bit low, needs a little bit of help, ends up getting burned on down as the cavalry has arrived. Extra fire now on the Pashi, but no swap. This is a very vulnerable Geist. Poppers now needing to get away. Saya looking for it. The support from Vegas keeping the Geist alive in the moment. Really nice support in from Vegas to stop that from being a pick.
Yeah, the farm on the Ivy ends up paying dividends. John not coming to this one, needs to defend that mid wave. Yamato as well, not able to show up. The lane pressure. Saya though getting a parting catch, but a little bit too much. Yeah, the carries aren't here for melee creeps. They're lacking the damage in this team fight. Leffa's also across the map, but of course with that global TP, he can always come bring numbers to bear. So Hydra Nation playing the numbers game, distributing their heroes on the map, more commitment to this side lane, and they get rewarded.
Yep, things right now almost entirely even as Hydra Nation keeps a decent presence right now into the right-hand lane, but now the time to move has been had. Melee creeps all over on the right, likely about to spread out themselves in turn. So about as even gets, and we have a moment here. Hold on, there's still a little bit of pursuit here. Kelvin looking for the Abrams. Don't think it's gonna turn anything more. So while we have a moment, you know, Mitch, what have you been seeing so far difference-wise between game 1 and game 2?
Oh, look, a way better early game here for melee creeps. I think Sire is like, you know, got to be a little careful looking for these lasso opportunities, but can be interrupted midway through them. I think Sire tries to lasso, then there's like a shoulder charge, then there's a paradoxical swap on them pretty much straight away. I think after like a rough game 1, they look really good here, but they want to be probably aware of trying not to do too much. Because Hydra Nation right now are not as strong as they were at this point last game, but it doesn't mean they won't get there. So this is the time to strike. This is the time to really try and lengthen your lead as buffs are back in 90 seconds.
Also curious to see who caps higher here. I kind of think the melee creeps draft in theory should have a higher cap because they have such potent team fighting. I also think Quig, having the Kelvin in some more expert, comfortable hands has paid dividends. I think the Frozen Shelters have been a lot sharper this game. We criticized melee creeps for that in the last game, but Quig has been very clean with that in strong positions throughout the game here. Still, the advantage is very small here, so I think melee creeps know they can't exactly force it. They just need to kind of eke out smaller and smaller expansions to the lead.
A little bit of walker pressure from Poppers here on the left-hand side. John, who's just been sitting here absorbing farm, and you know that can be a little bit of a risky battle for a Geist at times. An overfed Warden that has 2 to 3k on you in lane. It's something, a wild beast that could be ready to strike if Popper stays here and it turns into a one-on-one. I mean, there's ways that both sides can win on that battle, but for now, gonna be seeing a little bit of a back off coming on in from Poppers as calm before the storm right now, Jake.
I will say the fact that Poppers is up aggro on this left lane is creating space on the map. Like, he's able to steal camps away that really should be in the domain of melee creeps. Melee creeps are going to bring heavy numbers here to the right side lane. They want to try to catch Leffa. Leffa, though, is positioning very carefully, though. It shows that he's very aware of the threat of a lot of heroes missing on the map, and Sai gets punished for it. So the play kind of falls flat here for melee creeps. They were trying to set up and punish Leffa. I think it's a good strat in theory to deal with the guy with the global TP, but Leffa's too smart for it, has the read on the map.
Melee creeps still might want to rumble here. As buffs come on in, looking for Rokane first. Rokane super low, taken on down. Quick pick off here from melee creeps as the storm cloud comes on in over the top. Ido, full HP. Ray, the rumble, looking right now for hydration. Staying in on it. Hydration super low, ends up falling, does not get to the teleporter in time. And melee creeps off the buff spawn. Getting a pretty big advantage here. Don't think it's big enough necessarily to go for mid boss, but all the while, looking at left, it's been a defense coming on in, where they're just Sai's just trying to keep Leffa off the walker, and so far has done so successfully.
Yeah, Hydra Nation are trying to get something else elsewhere out of the map, trying to pressure mid and the sidewalker, but the fact that they don't clear these, losing a lot of players, not worth. I think Hydra Nation got a little bit greedy there, splitting up, and that's a nice late kill, the headshot. Even if Saya dies for this, it's going to be worth, but Saya trying to play his way out of this engagement, has cavalry coming in, yeah, and you can't even stick around for this on Fishcake.
Yeah, I mean, Fishcake, he wanted to go in deeper, but it would have been a disaster if he did. Leffa has Traveler up for when he's back respawn, so in theory, Hydra Nation could take a bigger team fight here and be at a full 6, but if you're melee creeps right now, I think they're just content to get the lanes pushed back up here, Jake, and nurse what's nearly a 15k lead.
Yeah, starting to expand here. And, you know, playing on some of these ulti tempos, melee creeps still holding some powerful ultis, right? They didn't expand absolutely everything in that fight. It's just Warden, 7. You're not too mad at using those ultis because you still have Quig with the Frozen Shelter. You still have Ido who can ult and hold the front line. And so for Hydra Nation, there's not such a clear opening to punish as we saw a couple times in the previous match.
Also,
said Rokane needs to find a swap. That could be the type of opener they need, looking for pickoffs rather than full team fights.
Just had a counterspell invested here on the Poppers end. So another threat to the enterprising Holiday player, which is now, if you're looking really obvious on the lasso, you know, you can just counterspell and you can stop it in its tracks. So, and it kind of makes sense that you're going to see it more on the Geist too, because Geist, if any hero, you know, vulnerable to ultra hard CC, because it's the one time that you're not going to be able to swap. So in terms of itemization, I don't hate it as far as making counterspell more of a priority on something like a Geist.
Both teams farming up. Melee creeps, though, being a little bit more grouped here. I think they are looking for some kind of engagement. The invis just barely not able to get the connection. Sounded like a connection on the lasso, but I think
it was a counterspell? I mean, the
yeah,
Geist was over there and there. Like, we didn't have the best angle, but it actually may have just been a counterspell.
I heard the connection. Like, yeah, maybe it was.
In that case, it probably was.
Big connection, though, from Hydration.
Well, he's put himself in his own freezer. It's awfully cold in here. Goes on, drops down 2, doesn't have another charge backing on up. However, is looking very, very healthy after the life strike. And the rest of Hydra Nation rolling on into the subway. But what's going on up above ground? Rokane down, Pashi Pop, big storm cloud, takes down 2. However, Poppers comes on in 2 of his own. 2 for 2 here so far in this fight. But we got Ido. He's juiced up. He's ready to rumble. Still has a Shadow Transformation. Going to Poppers, who has no swap. About as free potentially could be. Shadow Transformation surely about to be used here. The punches from Hydration, though. Chunking Ido in turn. Counter fire, though. In from Pashi. Drops a melee of his own. No Shadow Transformation required. And still 4 of Hydra Nation dead.
There's Pachipop, the unstoppable build. He's running it back. This time it looks so much better with the rest of the team able to endure a little bit longer in these team fights. Even with Poppers finding 2 of those kills, and I think a decent initiation there for Hydration. Melee Creeps bring numbers. This time they're the stronger team. Leffa's trying to harass from the sides, and there's some low players on Melee Creeps. This could get a little bit scary.
Okay. I mean, they could go for the swap here.
They're going for this.
They're running the Ivy. They're going for the steal. Hydra Nation. Will this be the first steal in a long time? No. Ido. He'll make sure it's his with the Shadow Transformation, but Hydra Nation get the pound of flesh in turn. 2 dead off after the
kills
rejuve.
for it, though. Yeah, like I think this is, you're actually pretty happy about this on Hydra Nation. If you can get especially maybe 1 more down on the rejuve. Lightning Scroll bot for Bosch Bob, so the next time he's up, he's going to be really crazy with that ultimate. But this is a lot of kills for Hydra Nation. I think the rejuve's probably still worth it, but that becomes a lot more expensive than maybe you would have wanted it to be.
I mean, you lose your econ advantage that you had there. But by the way, a little bit of snatch.
Oh, nice pull in there. Oh, this is looking really good, actually. You can turn this into a kill. Tornado use. I don't think you're going to get out of this on Lefa. He's so deep. He's just going to recommit, go all in, do what damage he can, but not enough for the Walker.
And unlike melee creeps, no rejuvenator there. So melee creeps, 6-on-5 power play here. Waves are going to push up on their own. And I think if you're melee creeps here, I feel like you could definitely get one of the 2 remaining walkers down in this rejuve, especially if you take advantage of this window here where Lefa's still down and Hydra Nation is not ultra keen to fight.
I mean, Pashipop is really strong. Lightning Scroll unstoppable. His ulti is like Giga online. You cannot fight into that ulti for Hydra Nation. I like getting stunned by the 7 ult. Your whole team's getting stunned. I mean, there's no way, right? With other assistants on top of that, like Warden coming in, follow damage from Ido. I mean, Ido hasn't even needed to Shadow Transform in the last couple fights. He's just been able to get the kills he needs without even relying on this Friability ultimate. That shows that Hydra Nation's like a long way from really being a threat in the full 6-on-6.
Also, Mitch was talking about weighted bullets. Is saying, I'd love to see a hero pick up weighted bullets. Well, so Yamato. Yamato went with the, a little bit fast, a little bit slow with express shot into weighted bullets a little bit later. And just given the survivability too, wouldn't be surprised to see Life Strike get picked up later just from the fact that meleeing is just really strong on Yamato in general. But quick little earn turn in for melee creeps. Not going to be contested here by Hydra Nation, adding to their lead, Jake.
Hydra Nation tried to make a play elsewhere on the map, but John sussed it out, was able to dodge, survive. Vindicta, meanwhile, low main holding down mid. If that mid walker gets exposed for even a few seconds, it will be a very quick take for Hydra Nation. But diving in on Vindicta looks a little bit risky. The counterplay here for Kelvin. Oh, I think that's a fat finger, surely, right? He didn't mean to dome that.
I don't think he meant to dome that. No, that wouldn't really make a lot of sense. It's like, hey, Vindicta, want to see a cool trick? Yeah, that's a nice ice dome. I've seen it many times. How about you use it on the enemies?
60-second cooldown is
look, it's
pretty crazy, though, on Frozen Shelter. It's like going to be up so soon.
Saya was very deep in the enemy territory right now. Veil Walker, of course, online, and just going full-on stealth pick mode on the holiday. And picked one up.
Got one.
Gets Rocane. Just fall through BB there.
Doesn't really have the ability to get out of this.
Might be able to make a trade, though. No, not quite. Okay, we're about to jinx each other. We just had the same reaction like 3 times in a row, Jake. There's caster synergy.
Pashipop is going to carry this fight. Hold on, the Giga ulti. Okay, just one. Still ulti over the top. Pashipop getting a lot here. Everyone's stunned by the lightning scroll. Huge damage from the 7. You cannot fight into this.
He's just up there in the sky, and you're right. No one wants to fight it in the moment. Poppers goes on down. Surely should lead to the Walker being chunked down in turn. Much better showing for Pashipop here in this game thus far. And okay, Ido wants a little bit more off the stake. Looking for Lefa. Lefa can't get away. And melee creeps feasting on the Hydra Nation retreat.
Yeah, Ido still holding onto these resources, still has ulti. Hasn't really been pressured in this fight. Pashipop created so much space. Base Guardian's down. Pull in, though, from Hydration. I don't know if you actually want this smoke on Abrams, though. He's taking a lot of damage in the shelter, trying to delay as long as he can. Big stun, but do you have the follow-up? Are there players who can continue this fight on? Ido, Shadow Transformation's over. It's going to start falling back.
I'll be honest, that worked out. That went better than I thought. I thought we were about to see Hydration hit the ground, but I think he did want the smoke, as it turns out there, Jake. It was actually completely fine, even if it doesn't result in any kills. So, all in all, though, melee creeps, they win the fight, they get the Walker, they get further ahead, and in a really, really good spot right now. And you look at even the income allocation here, too. Ido and John are ridiculous problems when you compare it to the highest farmed on Hydra Nation. It's not great for Hydra Nation in the front line, and it's a very different look for Abrams. And look, I mean, we saw in the draft, he was blue this time, not green.
There's also no answer for the 7 for Pashipop. I mean, the team fight threat, this is what I think Melee Creeps wanted to make happen last game, is just have an overwhelming team fight where when you group up a 6, you're just indomitable. And Hydra Nation aren't really able to split the map successfully either. I think Saya has been a key part of that. We honestly, we gave him a lot of crap. Game 1, he was having a pretty bad game, missed a lot of lassos, but Game 2, he's been that lone individual pickoff threat that's kept Hydra Nation honest, that's made it hard for them to split push and punish them in those key moments. So Hydra Nation kind of struggling to find the way back in. Ricochet up for Leffa could help deal with some of the AoE in these fights, but Melee Creeps, full ultis reset. It's kind of the balls in their court to keep pushing, to keep pressuring if they want to.
I think the problem for Hydra Nation right now is that it's not easy for them to freely go about the map. I think Sai has done a ridiculous job, now way more farm than the last game, using Veil Walker to, even if he doesn't start off a fight with a lasso, the fact that that Saya is out here just being a menace and looking for the pickoffs, it's ruined the ability of Hydra Nation to freely go about the map. And once more, got the lasso on the Vegas. Is the fall through going to be there? Airdrop. Response here from Vegas, trying to get away. And yeah, he had to go stone for him because the lightning scrolling gets caught. That's ridiculous. Or,
yeah, nice catch.
Maybe not. It might have been.
Yeah, the stun forced it out from him.
Yeah.
With that 7 connection, he had to block it. If he'd got stunned, he probably would have died anyway. I also want to compliment Melee Creeps done a fantastic job after that int from Hydra Nation trying to go desperately for the mid walker. Melee Creeps has been so diligent about pushing out that mid wave. They have never allowed Hydra Nation to reconvert him, finish off that very low mid walker. And that's denied them a key additional flex slot. I don't know how much Hydra Nation really need the flex slot, but still just keeping that mid walker online has created space, created more opportunities elsewhere on the map. And now bringing big numbers, this earn drop off, I don't think you can fight this on Hydra Nation.
No, and even though it's a situation where you go, okay, you have the lash, you'd like to, not in this case, not down 1 here this late in the game, when you're also pretty much at the barrier of getting stat checked. Bid Boss coming on up here.
I will say, souls-wise, the game's not that bad for Hydra Nation. I think it's, for me, Melee Creeps, if they have a really bad fight where they get their ults baited and kited out and Hydra Nation can re-engage, that's, I think, the win condition for Hydra Nation right now. I think the problem is that so far, they've been unable to disengage. Ido has been catching them, running them down. They've been caught by frozen shelters from Quig, and they've always been paying a steep price to get out of the engagement.
Feel like, this is a bigger thing, and I've said this with Melee Creeps and winning too. I still think overall Melee Creeps plays better with Holiday than they do with most other heroes, and maybe this is a draft day where you do try and ban out Ido when you have the opportunity, but I gotta tell you, if I was match day prepping for Melee Creeps, I don't give them Holiday. They love the hero too much, and they always have, even when they've struggled, they've always had good Holiday play, whether it be Saya or previous iterations, Cool Cheese. It's by far their most favored initiator by a pretty wide margin.
Yeah, there's so many threats, but I think Quig on the Kelvin has been great, and like you're saying, another catch on the Abrams. He's pretty tanky though. He's gonna shrug that one off. Lomain's low though. Hold on, Fishcake finds that connection, and that's exactly what you want for Hydra Nation, getting some early pickoffs. Vindicta really doesn't have the survivability to deal with that kind of a threat. Now for Melee Creeps, I think they'd probably be wise to just play this one a little bit slow. Down a player, I will give the advantage in the fight to Hydra Nation. It's not that big of a blowout game. Hydra Nation have also managed to control the map enough to keep that left walker alive, creating a little bit more space and lane pressure for them.
I think right now you got to have all eyes on Rokane. This is where you're about to have swap back up while Lomain is still down. You go for a little bit of pressure, but more importantly, you look for the swap. So we'll see if Rokane is able to do this to get a little bit of a snowball going here, because there is a window for it. On the same note, Hydra Nation may just be content with getting a little bit of farm here, where jungle farm, more of a comeback mechanic than it's been in the past. And while it's looking like no one's willing to fight right now, good time to tap in Mitch and just, get Mitch's take on where things are at.
You guys want to know where the build is for Ido right now? My brother got crushing fists about 10 minutes ago. This guy is going absolutely ape. Look, was super ahead in the early game, right? And it's actually sort of maintained that really significant soul lead here. So we talked about the scaling. I think it's worth pointing out the Hydra Nation just might not have that kind of carry that in the late game that can really stand up for them. I said that obviously having the Geist and the Mirage is great. Having souls in them, even better. They need those longer fights. In the late game, there's so much CC, there's so much burst damage. It's very, very hard to get that prolonged engagement that you're looking for. So Messiah, by the way, just Veil walking across the map and finding pick after pick. Melee Creeps have been the more proactive, and they look like they've got the highest ceiling in terms of scaling.
I will say Hydra Nation have been playing the farm game well, and I feel like Melee Creeps, I mean, maybe they have better late game scaling, but do you really want to hold off with all these ultimates off cooldown? I feel like if anything, Melee Creeps are the team that wants to go for these fights and pop ultimates. And just the pure farm trade so far has kind of allowed Hydra Nation back into the game. At one point, I think they were down around 20K. Now it's under around 10 right now, exactly.
Well, I think Red Alert just got signaled for Hydra Nation because guess what? Saya, it's lasso time. Lasso has usually been tried to be used as soon as it's off cooldown this entire game. And what you're going to see here in a moment is Saya's about to go a little bit deeper in the Hydra Nation side, as we're seeing right now, and his full Veil Walker exploration. Ideally, probably doesn't want to grab the Abrams, would love to grab the Mirage instead if people are around. But you know, if we could get the Saya camera here, this is probably going to be the next moment. Is Saya just looking for a pickoff?
Yeah, I think Hydration's probably a difficult target. You need a lot of follow to burst to the Abrams. Oh, nice parry on the swap there.
Yeah, that was the counter spell coming on in. So you just have enough time where you're not able to move away from the swap, but you have enough time to hit F right after. So counter spell being the biggest impediment right now to both Paradox and Holiday respectively at times.
All numbers are here, but John is not in this fight. Hydra Nation get an opportunity here to have a momentary player advantage. Can they capitalize, find kills?
Right now, the answer appears to be no. They're trying to get the quick pick up here on the side. Lasso not used, but John's coming in hot. So is Ido. Shadow Transformation used. Last Stand will not be far behind. The pressure into Hydration has to leap into the storm. Super low is Hydration, as Hydra Nation right now just tries to scatter and get out of this fight. And also, as you start getting late game, the power of the crows. Oh, dear Lord. Just like that, Hydration able to get the stun, at least buy a little bit of room to get away. John, though, up on top, takes down Vegas, and Jake, he was able to maintain his last stand. Didn't even use it in the last fight. A 4K Warden, still ready to rumble.
Warden is powerful. Lasso, pulling one in, should be an easy kill. Burst fire, so much damage is there. Follow up now onto Leffa, and I wonder, does this Walker really protect you? You're Geist, I guess, so maybe diving the Walker is pretty scary, the threat of that swap. Hydra Nation bringing numbers, but they're down 2 here. Can they actually double down and win this fight? Melee creeps without ultimates. Neither team has full strength, but yeah, the player number is just starting to be overwhelming here. Melee creeps looking to finish the game. Swap coming in, but Ido's tanky.
Ooh, Swap proving to be the better of John there. Last stand or no. And Ido gets chased on down, so while they're not able to stop the Walker from going down, Hydra Nation gets about as much as you could expect in that situation. As far as I'm concerned, Jake, that is a very successful defense to make some lemonade out of what started as some pretty gnarly lemons.
Impressive read from Hydra Nation, knowing that the key ultis are down for melee creeps, and so they are just going to double down and keep recommitting into the fight. However, I expect 7 to get refresher at some point, and I think that will be a pretty big problem. Like a second 7 ulti unstoppable combo is, I think, a major issue if they're able to have, because I think the biggest strength for Hydra Nation is that they're not so reliant on the ultis. They can kind of come in, bait and ult, and then re-engage. But once you have 2 7 ultis back to back, I'm not sure that's going to be all that realistically achievable. Well, and trying to grab the lasso, Earn gets punished. The invis setup, Geist though, pretty tanky.
They're going to frozen shelter here, and there's no swap. That's a lot of power to take down a Geist who lives way longer than they would have expected, but still, death inevitable. Off the step for that pick. Really nice stuff between the Holiday and Kelvin connection, Saya and Quig. Hydra Nation down 1 right now, trying to turn this back around if they can, or at least keep Earn control. Hydration looking for Kelvin, swoops around, tries to be a little bit sneaky on the melee, does not connect, and it's Stormin outside. Pashy big swap into the sky, gets swapped down, and now trying to get away, can't do it. The swap leading the way. However, Sai was able to get to the backline, took down Leffa. Hydra Nation still down 1. Both teams fighting tooth and nail here. Low main, very low, trying to hold to the backside, and Hydration getting caught in close quarters, and Ido's ready to go. Shadow Transformation, full HP. This is where Yamato can clean up.
Ido absolutely cutting through them right now, does get parried here, but it's just enough here. Hydra Nation down to the last one, and even Vegas, flying strike, dead to rights here. Ido hunting, trying to finish this, gets silenced, desperately looking for that finish. Maybe Vegas will be able to slip out with the ulti for the moment, but this should be a free mid boss here for melee creeps if they wanted to get their Earn turn in. They got to clean up maybe a couple waves here across the map. The lane position is going to keep, I think, at least the base alive for Hydra Nation, but mid boss so important at this phase of the game.
Mid boss, essentially where they're heading over right now. Taking a look at the map, and for Hydra Nation, I mean, you're down 4, and probably not necessarily going to be looking for it here at the moment. Just down too many and going for a steal. It's still something you could fight back. I mean, you're down 30k, but it's a 200k total. This is something you can come back from, but you know, well, I got a chance here. The wait for Hydra Nation to come back up as melee creeps goes on box runs. That's right. We got to call back in Mitch. And Mitch, this has been a back and forth slobber knocker. The melee creep still on top.
We were waiting for this. I think we really wanted to see a game that kind of went the distance, took us into like multiple tier 4 items of both teams' builds and really tested like the comeback mechanic in this game. And Hydra Nation have been able to leverage that to stay competitive. But we talked about that late game potential. We're definitely seeing that from the Yamato, especially when Idorian is like third-partying a lot of these fights. And John is terrifying at about 45k souls. I think that between the Yamato and the Warden is probably a little bit too much for Hydra Nation to try and overcome.
Yeah, I agree. I think the late game is really showing its true form here for melee creeps. Crushing fists for Ido, and even just the mobility potential, right? I feel like it's faster than walking, just perma running, and they pull Fishcake in super deep. A pick is not what you want right now for Hydra Nation. Getting CC to death here. Everything being dumped onto the Lash. And without Lash, that's your counter initiate for a base push. This is the open door now for melee creeps to try to end the game.
Jake, that was filthy. That was not just a lasso. That was a lasso backed up by a rescue beam. Fishcake got the express train to hell. And now you got Saya up over the top, laying damage here in the holiday. John up and over. Last Stand still on deck. Just guns down Poppers. Frozen Shelter gonna be dropped for a little bit more isolation. 2 down for Hydra Nation as melee creeps look to keep defending their throne here in Deadlock Fight Night and try and force a map 3. The shrines are melting before our very eyes. And the storm is brewing.
Okay, Pashipop oversteps the mark there, does die, but 30-second respawn. He's going to be up in time. They could drop the Patron here. They're going to do just that. And these spawns are so long for Hydra Nation. I don't know that they're going to be able to make this base defense. Yeah, this one's over, man. Melee creep still with Rejuve. It's just left with Rokane and Fishcake trying to make this one happen. Maybe Fishcake can like ult them all into the base, but it's so only they even have Kelvin ulti. No problem here.
All right, Patron going on down. Melee creeps, they clap back. A different draft, a slightly different strategy, and way better execution coming in from their Holiday and Kelvin play. They say we are not giving up our title without a fight. Map 3 now in the cards. We're gonna bring back in Mitch and Mitch.
Pashi's silencing the doubters of the unstoppable rush build. I feel like the 7 ultis were way more impactful this game. I think Quig having the Kelvin in Quig's hands looked so much stronger for them. Just clear comfort on the character. The execution was really nice. And then Ido was just on a rampage this game. Got like absolutely hate drafted in game 1. Denied on like all of his top players. And then now the first pick, Yamato, we were questioning it. We were thinking, okay, are you really gonna draft a Yamato first? Well, Ido made it work, and going an interesting build there. It was like more of a gun focused build than we've seen for quite a while on the Yamato, and it was deadly.
Mitch is
I
back
think we
for real
will.
now.
Yeah, I'm back. We were critical, obviously, of the Pashipop build, which is fine because the context of that was different, right? There wasn't really like a hard damage carry on the team for melee creeps. Whereas I think if you're like, rushing this unstoppable build alongside like Yamato is having a really good early game, or like that Warden that's also starting to take over, then it looks way more reasonable. Your team's not hurting as a result. And we can see, right, once that escalating exposure is added as a tier 4 item, like it is truly devastating. And the problem for melee, for Hydra Nation, is that they want these drawn out fights. Like they want time to get value off their Geist, off their Mirage. But how are they supposed to do that when there is a massive empowered storm cloud in the middle of the fight? Like the fight gets called off virtually for Hydra Nation very quickly when they can't, get those sort of sustained damage carries involved because of the storm cloud, and they lose a lot of value there if they're fighting outside.
Well, look, as we get into the highlights, the other thing here too is that Hydra Nation, they didn't get to be masters of their own destiny here, because the way most of these fights were starting, it was a cloaked Holiday. Veilwalker came into play pretty early into the game, as Saya had a decent early to mid game, and it was just Saya going back and forth, continually getting picks here with the lasso, but also really the main ally to melee creeps in this game, probably our main producer Solomon, who opened up in production and said like, oh, okay, cool, last game of the day. You cannot give that level of just intangible power to another team. The curse was unreal, Jake.
Yeah, this is NA,
Very vulnerable to the curses, and I feel like a lot of players on melee groups who had tough game 1s just came back so strong in game 2, showing the mental fortitude. I mean, I was kind of doubting them after that game 1 was such a rocky start. And yet the comfort is clearly there, able to bring it back, able to have that mental fortitude. I mean, maybe we shouldn't be down on them so quick, because remember, this is a team that's now been our champions for quite a few weeks in a row, that has earned their place. Quig, that steady-handed leader, I think, it's undeniable to see his influence on the way they play, especially in a scenario where game one was such a rout against them.
Also, this express shot, Yamato, is disgusting right-click poke. I sort of was watching the lane just in the game, and I was like, wait a minute, this is kind of gross. It's like 4-second cooldown, right? So you like throw out double of the bombs off your Yamato right click, and it's a huge part of your combo that gets you in there. So really interesting to see it on Yamato of all things, kind of making me remember the gun build. But yeah, it worked really well here early.
Yeah, and one thing of note here though, this is the last time you're going to see it in the series. Remember how the series started. Hydra Nation, as the challenging team, they get their right of draft order in the first map, and of course the losing team gets their right of draft order after. And by the way, the tether coordination, the tether upon the lasso, really good to see. But regardless, you're not going to see Ido on Pocket next game, and you're not going to see Ido on Yamato. We already know how Hydra Nation opened map 1, and they're going to open map 3 the same exact way. You can take it to the bank. They're going to put Ido on one of his weaker heroes, and, you know, Jake, it just feels like the right thing to do for Hydra Nation.
It's time for Ido to bring out the Abrams, the Ido Abrams, the green Ido Abrams. It's the Abrams patch. It's the moment. I think you're right. I think Hydra Nation are going to do exactly that. The key question now is, I mean, that like realistically for Ido, like it should be a weak play for Hydra Nation. The only way that play is a good play is if Ido really can only play those two heroes at a high level. And so I think this is a moment for him to show that he's developed as a player, that he has like expanded that hero pool and can be a huge threat. To say, okay, you're gonna hard prio ban protect like my top picks, then I'm just gonna take something else that's even more meta. Like I don't think Yamato and Pocket are the best heroes this patch. There's been patches where it's made sense to super prio them, but this patch I don't really think it is that one. And so honestly, I think I like Melee Group's chances in the series if they have the depth, if they has the versatility.
Well, as we take a look here, the damage from Pasha Pop, hard to deny also, where, you know, we doubted the build in the first map, and look, I say, if your entire team does not get just crunched in the early to mid game, the 7 build that Pasha Pop was going on a little bit better than we were giving it credit for here. But all in all, I'm interested to see how this final map ends up going, because I feel like there's some very big comfort picks that also Hydra Nation could look to take away in the mid-stage bans. I think, you know, for one, or picks for that matter, John on the Warden, clearly incredibly comfortable that you're seeing here. Quig on the Kelvin. They gave up a lot of just historical picks to melee creeps, and, you know, Mitch, especially in NA, sometimes that can be a mistake.
Yeah, exactly. I think that if you are Hydra Nation, you're just going to target Ido that much. Obviously, that completely like warps the draft, because who is banning those two heroes? Like it makes it pretty hard to anticipate, and also lets through a bunch of potentially very powerful picks there as well. Like we might even see the shift be a factor. They can't afford to, you know, to sort of ban that if they're going to go after Yamato Pocket. So that could set a completely different playing field. I think that like the 7 also might be worth considering, maybe dealing with, because Poshpop had a disgusting amount of player damage over the course of that game, and you know it's like a minute cooldown on those storm clouds by the end of the game, guys. Like it's not a long time. The lightning scroll hits different. That stun forcing people to be subject to more of that ticking damage makes him just again like a background damage dealer in a different way, I guess, than like, you know, a Mirage or a Geist is going to be.
And speaking of Mirage, I mean, Leffa had a relatively quiet game there. Only 1 kill in that last game, not really able to get into that fight. I mean, Poppers ended up being kind of the biggest carry for Hydra Nation in terms of damage dealt and kills. But I feel like that's because Geist, you know, sometimes even if you're in a rough situation, you can get swaps into kills, or you can throw the grenades and poke for a lot of damage, but not able to really convert into that many victorious team fights. I was a little worried about Melee Creeps, how slow they played it at like the mid-late game when they had a pretty nice advantage, but then you could see the vision. I mean, once they came with the refreshers and they really had like the full wombo combo online, that was the true goal of that draft, I think, was always to hit that ultra late portion of the game and just have overwhelming ultimates that your team fights are just unwinnable.
Yeah. Well, the stage is set. It's 1-1 here at Deadlock Fight Night, North America, number 25, presented by Intel. Melee Creeps, Hydra Nation. One more map remains. Who will be our champion in the first fight night of the new patch? Well, I got news for you. We're going to see in just 5 minutes. We'll see you there. No better way to christen a new patch in Deadlock with the money match going the distance. Map 3, Hydra Nation, Melee Creeps. ZP here with Mitch and Jake. And Mitch, this one, it fit the billing and it has been thrilling to watch here so far.
I mean, I know that Melee Creeps didn't get a lot of practice on this like patch prior. Like they have not had a ton of time to acclimate, and they're playing with a sub today. And still, they adapt really nicely into that game too. And Idorian adds a whole nother level to this team, right? Half the reason why he's brought onto this team, and people joke, say, okay, Idorian's got a limited hero pool outside of some of those big picks. You know, he's not as strong. Well, he got disrespected. Hydra Nation let him onto the Yamato, even though it was first ban. And we joked about it. We should not have been so mirthful to see that there, because it didn't matter what the rest of the draft looked like. Melee Creep still got a very reasonable comp. And Sire completely redeemed himself after game one. It was really sick comeback.
I was really impressed with the Gun Yamato. That's another build I want to hop into a pub and try, because I think Gun Yamato, when it was strong before, it was like heinously OP. I don't know if it's at that same level though, but the express shot, like I think Ido just bought like 6 3K gun items. I mean, really stacked on gun items with like, okay, a little bit of spirit there thrown in for good measure, but for the most part, it's super, heavy gun commitment. And then think about, I mean, Yamato is like one of the only heroes. I think it might be the best crushing fist user in the game, because one of the only heroes where even late game, you can fearlessly throw melees and like, you don't care if you get parried, right? You take the parries anyway.
You know, the funny part that is that you say that where you won't get stunned, but I think you still take damage, so it goes for buttles. So I am curious to see the moment where it's like, haha, shadow transformation. I can keep throwing melees. And you're like, wait, what's happening to my HP? What is happening to my HP?
Anime
right
mode,
now?
10 parries in a row on the Yamato. But the thing is, Yamato is like, you're throwing fists, but between every punch, you're hitting like right clicks and skills on people. So you're not like hard committing on it. You're just even like quick melees, right? Just throwing light melees in on people while you're right on top of them, while you're grappling, striking them. You know, I think to me that I feel like I'm suspicious about such a late game item relying on melee because of the parry threat. At the same time, I think Yamato is maybe one of the most reasonable. At the same time, I also wonder, could you just go glass cannon and just like absolutely delete enemies with your right clicks? But still, I mean, Ido was just on fire that last game.
Well, we are about to get into the draft, and look, I think we can kind of predict the opening here from Hydra Nation. They've taken first pick, and look, I would almost be willing to make a terrible bet with horrible results against me to the tune of it is going to be Pocket or Yamato in the first ban, and then Pocket and Yamato on the first pick for Hydra Nation.
Yeah, maybe. I think you might be right. I wonder if this is a mistake though from Hydra Nation, because I think so I guess it's going to be assuming the Pocket for Hydra Nation here at first. You're right. I think the Yamato ban probably just seals it. But I mean, like, if Melee Creeps like can't Ido play Abrams or something, like, I feel like you're giving up a lot of high prio picks to do this strat for Hydra Nation.
I mean, you can't target Wraith. You can't target any of the initiators. You can't take any of the initiators for yourself. Melee Creeps seem happy enough to, you know, not try and take both of them. But yeah, like Lash Ban is Shift Ban, no shock here. What are you going to do? Pick the Pocket?
They picked the Pocket.
Time to pay the piper and pick the Pocket, boys.
Look, this is a thing that tells all time. You don't give LeBron the ball, is the phrase associated with Ido and Pocket. And Jake, once more, LeBron doesn't get the ball. It's just how it goes.
True. But if I'm Melee Creeps, like, can't you just go like Kelvin Abrams here? Isn't that just like absurdly OP? I just think that like Hydra Nation are overplaying this. I actually believe that like you just put Ido on Abrams, he'll be fine, and pick Abrams Kelvin, which have been like the Giga tier 1 picks in the last few games. I feel like you're kind of off to the races. Like, who knows where you go from there in the draft? It's going to depend on the responses. But I would rather be Melee Creeps right at this point in the draft.
It's such an interesting strategy, I think, to target one individual.
I can take whatever they throw at me.
Whoa! He's going Super Saiyan 3!
Okay, we had green Abrams, and then Abrams, you know, it was normal Abrams last game, but look, if this is any indication of the strength of the Abrams that Melee Creeps is going to play, I mean, he's never been stronger.
Did Orange just put that together in like 5 minutes?
I think so.
That is crazy.
Shut up, production. That goes so hard.
Orange the goat, actually. So
that goes so crazy. And they get the Warden too for John. Okay, so I mean, they give up the Kelvin potentially, but for Hydra Nation, you know, you could take Kelvin Geist here, but Shiv is out of the pool, so the full-on all-in commit Kelvin strat doesn't feel as transparently good here, with like a lot of the frontliners being taken away. I wouldn't hate to see Kelvin Geist here though as a response for Hydra Nation.
Yeah, I mean, the Geist comes on in, no surprise there. And yeah, I mean, Kelvin, you would think, because do you really want to give Kelvin up to an Abrams Warden team when you've already lost so much frontline? Probably not, right? Like, it just, to me, the Kelvin probably makes the most sense. I mean, what else could you get?
You could also
here?
ban it if you wanted. You could go for like a Paradox here or a Holiday and then look to ban Kelvin. Actually, never mind. Melee Crew's going to grab Kelvin next if you don't take it. So, okay, they're going to go with the Paradox. They prio it over the potential threat of a Kelvin here.
It feels like the initiators are not high prior enough to be must ban. They looks like they're getting picked, but neither team is trying to deny their opponents that.
I don't think it's worth taking 2 of them. I think it's actually interesting though, because I think Hydra Nation will ban whichever of Kelvin and Holiday is not taken in this slot. So they prio the Holiday over the Kelvin. Interesting.
This is actually really, really smart. I think a lot of people have said, okay, get the Kelvin, but Saya looked so good on the Holiday in the last map, and the Holiday simply terrorized Hydra Nation for the mid to late game. I think 100% they were going to ban the Holiday if it was not picked. So fully agree, Jake.
Yeah, and now Hydra Nation, the Kelvin ban doesn't feel quite as impactful here if that is what you go for. Viper ban for melee players. I think they just don't want to deal with it. I think it's just one of those things where, okay, new patch, new builds, it's weird. It was strong game 1. Fishcake had a great game, clearly is comfortable on the Viper. This is like a sort of for me, a very normal ban. I don't think it's Hydra Nation have a balanced draft so far. I don't think there's any like super insane bans against them that you really need to ban. I think it's more just like, I like this choice to get rid of something that you just didn't want to have to deal with in a decisive game in the money match. And they're gonna ban the Wraith. Okay, so I guess this gives the Kelvin to melee creeps if they assume they want it. I mean, Quig looked so good on it last game. I think Warden and Abrams can use it well. Yep. That is another good point, though. Maybe the 7 is higher power. 7 went last pick for melee creeps, though. I wonder if it would be contested.
Unless what? Yeah. Who's going to play at Vegas? I mean,
yeah,
we've got 7 players.
Adventure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Well,
it's kind of like you drew it up.
They haven't picked Mirage yet. So in theory, they could go 7 and they could have Leffa play it if they want to. I mean, it's not usually something Leffa has played a ton in recent memory, but it's still like in his pool.
I mean, this ulti build, if that's what they go, I don't think it takes like a super expert player to press the 7 ulti in the air. You know, no flame to Bashi Pop, but I think realistically either team could run the 7. The question is, do Hydra Nation believe in it? You could also see the Sinclair as another great response here. It's good. It's great copying the Kelvin. It's great copying the Warden. I actually really like the Sinclair coming into
the lane bullied like you wouldn't believe as well. Like what he's able to do right now just seems completely wrong. We saw it so much in Europe. Just basically pointed at a lane and their Guardian just ceases to exist. So I like that. Get that early advantage and then start funneling farm to a Geist or Mirage. So they're going to go with this Geist Mirage combo here as well. Both those gun-oriented sort of sustained damage carries.
Yeah, and okay, so Mirage isn't a surprise. They're picking that specifically for Leffa. The Sinclair is actually, I do think, is a brilliant pick here because you cannot ask for a better value on the ult game than what you're getting here, where 7 is going to come in for melee creeps here. I'm very convinced. They will pick 7 to round out their roster, so what do you want, Sinclair? You can go Last Stand. You can go Stormcloud. You can go Frozen Shelter. The amount of versatility that Sinclair is going to have for Hydra Nation is actually unreal and ridiculous. Assuming that 7 is the last pick here, which probably is. The Viscous pick is interesting, given the fact that, you know, Viscous in theory can be like really hard countered by rebuttal, but we'll see how it goes.
We are so...
You love rebuttal. ZV's
so
favorite. I don't think anyone has built rebuttal all day.
Or a literal...
like convinced.
A fudging 800 soul item, like just random jank. Like we are so sold out for this interaction.
It works on Puddle Punch.
Yeah, I know. True. Like, but also you can't shoot Puddle Punch that fast. So you don't need rebuttal for it, right? You just successfully parry again.
No, it does damage. It does damage back in turn. Like if you, like,
you can hurt them for Puddle Punch.
Yeah,
it was the idea.
Like you said, okay, the Dynamo. That's really the big change up for Hydra Nation as a means to punish the mass frontline. One thing that's interesting here, I really want to see 7 go Lightning Scroll before Unstoppable this game. Like in particular this game, because I think you need some stuns that hard answer Dynamo ult. And I think the 7 ulti being in the air means you just can't really pop your Dynamo ulti if there's a Lightning Scroll threat. You're going to get stunned out of it after a couple seconds. Holiday Lasso also good against Dynamo. I mean, when Hydra Nation has picked Dynamo, it's been good, but I actually think this is a little bit of an awkward game for Dynamo. If you solo out somebody, they could get cubed.
I also think like you have that bullet resist as well. So like in theory, you maybe don't feel like you need to build up like that durability item first, considering the Mirage and Geist are less effective against you while you're in that form. But yeah, the fact that 7 has the ability to just like, it's a 12-second duration, guys. And the radius gets massive. It's a 17-meter radius at the end of it. That you could disrupt people with channeled abilities inside of that radius is unbelievable. But it's also terrifying to play against a Sinclair when you have that ability.
True. Maybe Sinclair gets that item too. Like
yeah, I was gonna say, well, what if Sinclair comes in and is like
Warden ulti could also really benefit from it, right? And could look super strong.
Yeah.
I think both teams have gotten a draft that is very much their vision of how to play the game. It's interesting because I think those visions are actually very different, which maybe shouldn't be a huge surprise on like the first big competition of a new patch. That being said, last game made me a believer in Melee Creeps comp. I think game 1 was an aberration. I think Melee Creeps kind of shit the bed, frankly, and in terms of the execution in the early mid game, and even made some team fights a little bit scary in the late game. Hydra Nation, the Dynamo is the X factor though for them. I think if they can win some major team fights just with the overwhelming threat of Dynamo, that's their way back into the game. Sinclair maybe could be the same with audience participation. But I like the pound for pound comp Melee Creeps have run here. I think it's just straightforward. It's good, and they know how to execute it as they showed in the last game.
Also, the switch up here is kind of interesting in the fact that you think about who's playing what. It is probably Hydration that's going to come in and play the Dynamo. And it's not that Hydration is a bad Dynamo, but all day long it's been Hydration on Abrams. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of a shock to the system where you've been playing a ton of Abrams and you thought you've gotten, you'd play Abrams in most of these games. And now for the final match where you're trying to become champion once again, Abrams has been taken away from you and now you have to come in last second on the Dynamo. So, I mean, there is a world where Hydration comes in a little bit cold on the hero too.
It also does look like Ido Abrams. So this is that test, right? Hydra Nation got a little bit of a weird draft because they invested super heavily in the hate draft against Ido, and time to see if that pays off, right? Ido had a great game last game on Yamato, but now he's on the Abrams. Arguably, that was what you wanted as Hydra Nation. Get him off like Pocket and Yamato. You went really heavy to make that happen. But Abrams is the hero of the patch, if there is one. And so I guess there's a lot of pressure on Ido to not just have a decent game, but a pretty strong game with the way Hydration in particular has kind of paved the way on the hero.
We're on the NA Deadlock pissing train at the moment, folks, and that's not a metaphor. That is, we're just waiting for a couple of players to still jump into the game for us here. I'm curious, like Viscous, the way Viscous fits into this whole situation, I think is going to be pretty important. This Hydra Nation team are not like outwardly super durable. I wouldn't say that they put up a really powerful front line. Obviously, they do. It's a very high damage comp by the looks of things, right? Sinclair definitely wants to shut down like this bulkier front line with like mass hexes. I think that is going to be pretty crucial here. But again, if Melee Creeps can get Ido out to the kind of early lead we saw, and if Sire is continuing to be this Veil Walker, ever-present threat, now like adding the Kelvin to the mix here, like that is, it's a terrifying combo. A lot of roam potential on this team.
I think the team fight looks super sick for Melee Creeps. Like Lasso pulls people in. I mean, I guess there's once again a lot of pressure on Saya to hit a lot of lassos. That's really your key initiation skill. But now you have Abrams and Viscous to maybe supplement that in certain fights. But if you lasso somebody in and they're like getting Warden traps and Viscous is rolling on them and Abrams is pinning them and 7 is stunning, there's so many follow-up stuns and control options for Melee Creeps off the back of a lasso initiation. It's scary. It's like if Saya's hitting lassos and just having a great game, I feel like this is just over. Melee Creeps will win if that's the case. Assuming you pass that hurdle and you're able to, for the most part, not get lassoed too much on Hydra Nation, still, I think it'll be tough in the major team fights.
Well, I think the problem here is one of disruption in how the fights begin, right? Where if you get to the mid to end game and most of the fights are beginning with a lasso, well, as you try to go in and catch up to the person that's getting lassoed in the certain death, well, what's going to happen? You're going to have Frozen Shelter come out. You're going to get Viscous Disruption come out. You're going to get a ball come out. And then you're going to see Pashi pop in the air with a Storm Cloud.
It's Abrams' final form.
Oh, God. Oh, God. It's shifted. It's absolutely shifted. I'm ready. And it's kind of red Abrams, too. Red suit, blue Abrams.
Put him in. Put Abrams in.
We've got quite the collection of Abrams here. And someone in the chat was like, it's funny. We made the Super Saiyan Abrams and someone in the chat was like, make him green. was like, yeah, we did.
Bruh.
We did that. We want the green and Super Saiyan Abrams. Like, holy.
That's the final.
That's it. I mean, no, this is the, yeah, thank you. This is the final form. I'm super locked in for this one. I'm really hype. Obviously, our players are giving us way. Literally. It's the same meme. It is this team, by the way. The Hydra Nation in the past have been accused of piss chain scandals, but it's actually Melee Creeps holding us up today. So,
but also, you stop and think about the namesake of the team, which is hydration. This is a well-hydrated team, and the water's got to go somewhere, Mitch, and that somewhere is in the toilet because there's
into the diaper. Into the diaper. All right,
No,
you're a pro gamer.
Listen, real gamers rock a bedpan. I don't know about you guys, but I stay locked in the long gaming sessions.
Exactly. Or you get like a pee funnel. They call them shiwi, and they're actually brilliant.
Okay.
So you can just funnel your pee from like into a receptacle.
That's the sponsor we need. We got to put some feelers out. We got to put some feelers out.
Get us some
let us know.
Look, this is bringing me flashbacks to like the stories of like when Raucus was trying to get like server first in classic WoW when it came back out, and not only was he doing dubious things to his teammates in order to get over there, but it also telling me like, guys, this is normal. I'm shaking. Like I've just been up for like 72 hours, and my body's involuntarily shaking. Also, I think it was like peeing in a bucket or something. It's just like about as goblin mode gaming as you get is where the nostalgia has gone. But thank God,
that's fair. At this point, I'm actually, after hearing that story, like let hit Melee Creeps Hydra Nation go to the restroom. Pee, chill. Like it's all good. Like, do not pee in a bucket for us, please. Like it's not that serious.
That's not for us, really, is it? Like I don't need to know if you're gonna pee in a bucket. Just keep it to yourself. That's all I'm trying to say.
True,
I just don't need to hear about it.
Whatever floats your boat, honestly. I don't yuck your yum. I'm not gonna yuck anybody's yum.
Yep. I mean, if that's your yum peeing in a bucket, then I've got other questions. But yeah, avoid it.
Well, you know what? We have to question no more, as once more, we are getting what has been a pretty devastating middle lane here from Melee Creeps, Jake, and that they're once again, they're going with the Warden Holiday, and it's been way more effective than I would have expected for a Warden lane.
Yeah, response is going to be hydration on the Dynamo. We've seen him make this character look incredibly powerful before. Usually not building too heavily around the ultimate, usually playing a little bit more for those pulse abilities. Also low main on the Viscous, I think, can be a strong early game nuker. But you can see Rokane is giving a lot of range and distance. Of course, Viscous has some serious range issues. Big pin in though, hold on, opportunity. Abrams starting something on, and you do have the nuke available for Viscous. Oh, he just barely misses it. That's gonna be painful for the early trades.
A lot of bob and weaving for low main here early on. Now, and over to the right-hand side. Take a look at Rokane right now. Carbine, good to let loose. Looking, lands a little bit of damage onto Viscous and quickly gets away. Mission successful, however, Quake down. Popper's finding his mark.
Have to see if Rokane continue to find a little bit more out of this lane. But for now, both teams just settling in, last hitting. I don't expect this game to be a blowout, frankly. I think regardless of which way it goes, I think all these players are just too strong to let the game get super out of control.
What I'm kind of interested in here is what's going on middle. Middle is already pushed up really, really far for this part of the game. You already see some decent damage hang on to middle Guardian. So you take a look at, I mean, Saya and John kind of picking up where they left off from the previous two games, where even the game that Melee Creeps lost, Jake, it was kind of a masterclass in farming, although difference is this time they leave Saya in lane and they go, John, you go in the box run.
Yeah, I guess they do have some pretty powerful nuking skills, right? If they're able to barrel bomb somebody, follow up with a flask from Warden, can be a scary nuking threat. Hydration does have that heal aura though, could be a stabilizing force. Meanwhile, the other side lane, push coming in a little bit more aggressively for Hydra Nation, and this is a scary lane. Sinclair Geist, that's actually disturbing. So much nuking threat, a lot of control. Like, you really have got to play this one cautiously. And 7 Kelvin, I'm not really feeling it. This is kind of like, okay, we got to put these guys somewhere. This is fine. Like, we'll stabilize. Maybe once the Kelvin gets his heal buff, he can like keep 7 in the lane forever and allow him to tank through a lot of damage. But
Jake, I'll sum it up as this: it's the Gulag lane. Objective survive is where 7 and the 7 and Kelvin are at for now. But I do think they have tools that at least stay in lane, keep it reasonably close together. Meanwhile, take a look at mid lane, and mid lane is again just ultra hard shoved by melee creeps right now.
Yeah, and that tower is starting to take a bit of damage there in the mid lane as well. Low main keeping the pressure on, but in the end, both teams just trading farm, right? There's not really much of a break open point here. Everyone, I think, doesn't want to make a mistake, doesn't want to allow the series to open up on their account. But every wave, I mean, this is a big wave crashing on mid. Like, yeah, this is massive damage, actually. That's significant pressure.
It's really tough because, I mean, I think there's only so much the Dynamo pocket lane can kind of do against the poking power that they're getting here, largely from the Holiday, but also, I mean, clearly from the Warren at the same time. And the next wave to go to the tower may actually get the Guardian down early. So what tends to happen here, Jake, is that Hydra Nation might overextend a little bit, especially if it happens pre-ultimate and give up picks and then give up Guardian. So this is really perilous at the moment for this middle lane. And right now, John inside trying to seize the opportunity.
Big nukes, though. Full buff now on pocket. He can turn the tables a little bit onto John. But hydration got really low in that moment. He did get his ultimate online, though, so it could be a little bit scary. I think at this moment, melee creeps really cannot push the tower. I think the threat of the ultimates are way too high, especially with Vegas almost bridging that gap as well to his own ult. So this might staunch the bleeding for Hydra Nation. It might be a little scary for melee creeps to try to force anything to happen. Lasso though for Saya, though. If that finds that, all bets are off.
I mean, realistically, John can kind of pre-channel Last Stand, have faith in Saya. Saya goes up and goes for the lasso. And it would be a dead character, whoever got pulled in. So this, I mean, mid lane has all the ingredients for an explosion at the moment. But also, speaking of things doing well, we talked about the objective survive lane. They're about to get kicked out of the Gulag because that Guardian is nearly dead. And I mean, look, you called it, Geist Sinclair. It's a lot of power in the lane that I don't think the 7 Kelvin lane is particularly great at defending.
In the end, though, I feel this is kind of fine in a way. Like, just leave 7 and then Kelvin can just go start roaming. Like, maybe Kelvin will stay in lane and just get his ulti online, and then he can just go start roaming and helping elsewhere. And just, yeah, you lost a Guardian, but if 7 just farms up, the only downside is really just not having the shop, but not the end of the world with the ability to just, you know, head back to base or, you know, potentially just farm up and use what you got so far. I wouldn't mind seeing Kelvin left alone. Ido, though, going down on Abrams. Pretty painful. Was trying to dive in a little bit deep there, but Leffa still has a bit of HP to work with.
Overall, pretty nice start for Hydra Nation, at least on the side lanes. They've gotten bullied a bit in the middle lane, down a kill, and certainly been down in Guardian pressure, but the side lanes, Hydra Nation has held their own and then some here so far. Low main, the pressure, and drop the cube, and now, okay, they decide to make something happen here. Investing the goo ball, here comes Ido, deep in on the chase. Deeper in is Ido at the moment, but just getting burned to pieces by the Guardian. Oh dear Lord, Lomain, you're way too low for that.
Yeah, just doing a little bit too much there. Hard diving with the ball. They just didn't have the follow-up for that. And Ido, ooh, looking to be dead again, potentially. Just slips out for the moment, but this side lane's going really rough. I mean, this is worst case scenario, I think, for melee creeps. Worse than I would have expected. Just overplaying the hand, diving the enemy tower when I think arguably they were losing the lane a little bit there. Saya, though, wants to turn fortunes around. 1 second, Lasso could do exactly that. Big nuke coming in as well.
Oh, no, he waited. Good patience there. Thought he lassoed early instead. Holds it for the tornado. Goes in. Lands at the right time. A quick 2-piece with Saya. Just leaving the middle lane, going to the side lane. About as perfectly timed as a gank as you're going to get there, Jake.
Yeah, that's huge from Saya to recover a lane that was really in jeopardy. It's a major tempo shift and just gives Ido and Lomain really just a new lease on life, another shot to stabilize that.
Now back over into middle, Last Stand. Good to go here for John. Going to be without the lasso assistance if he goes for it anytime soon. But you look at the mid Guardian HP. I mean, melee creeps, you got to think they want to get the mid Guardian to stabilize here, and they don't have much more to go, but they still have to be very respectful whenever a Dynamo's in lane. It's still a singularity on deck.
Yeah, that's a good point. Although Lomain, yeah, caught between a rock and a hard place there, not lasting long in that cube, just waiting for the end. Ido trying to trade. Dodges the parry for now, looking to finish off Leffa. Did he have rebuttal? Oh my god, he parried so fast after the last parry. We need to check. We need to check the
check him items.
We need to check Leffa's items. We need to check Leffa's items. This is crucial.
Well, this was also Like, this was the lane that Viscous was in from the beginning, was he not? And now he's like rotating over left to get a little bit of return farm. So
if there was ever a lane to build rebuttal, I will give you it. It is the Viscous Abrams lane. It is the Viscous Abrams lane.
All right, so right now we're taking a look at Leffa and no rebuttal.
Okay, he just, I don't know. He's faster pairing than the rest of us. He's built different.
So things evening up here for melee creeps, which honestly, not the worst for them given how the side lane started. They were able to get one side lane down. They're still really close to getting middle, and Saya just so active on roaming here already, Jake. You know, getting out of middle, going up and over, looking now a little bit to the right-hand side. I wonder if he sees Sinclair that's here, and yep, sees Sinclair, goes on in Sinclair. Gonna try and get away from this, using the assistant for a little bit of jukes. Can go back and all the while, and this is where Saya's just hanging back, expecting the swap, perhaps, here in the moment. So Sinclair, very slippery, Jake, in situations like that.
I think with how low Quig is, you're probably just gonna take the reset, stabilize for the moment. Dodging the punch, knocks up Geist, but with swap, it's kind of scary to chase in deeper. Threat of a catch here coming in, and they pulled swap and get one more, taking that one, but John's back, and they've used a lot of the key ultimates. He's able to really just run rampant here, unstoppable in the lane with the help of Quig, getting 2 quick kills.
I mean, John take down Sinclair, saying accept no imitations. The real authentic last stand. Still in the fight, under pressure right now. Affliction coming on in from Vegas, hits pay dirt on the John. Forced out a bit on the fight. Both teams throwing out hydration down, so is Quig. Vegas looking to dive a little bit deeper. The Affliction was dropped on the John, results in him dying with Rocane getting the killing blow. Trade outs back and forth.
Just so many numbers being brought to that mid lane very early. Everyone emerging bruised and bloody. I don't even know who got the better of that trade. I guess it's me. Creeps, they looked at being a little bit of a soul lead. Goo ball used in mid looks like pretty defensive one, just allowing Lomain to get out. Posh Pop dueling Leffa, but Leffa's a heavy HP here, getting stacks up. Seven's in big trouble right now.
Yeah, not looking good for Posh. Here's Posh, he just getting plunked by Leffa. Kind of fav anyone when Mirage gets a little bit of an HP lead and is a decent soul position. But taking a look here, Earn is available. Is going to be in rotation now from Hydra Nation. Rocane to carry it up towards the base. Ido, though, just chunking fish cake other side of the map. So Earn controlled by Hydra Nation, lose fish cake in the process. And Saya, Jake, the lasso's good to go. Who's he going to get this time?
We'll have to see. Saya's definitely hunting, definitely thinking about that option. They would love to knock down that left side Guardian or mid. They would love to just get that second one. Get some of these flex slots open. Saya, though, all alone versus 2. Yeah, there's not much hope for a solo kill with the lasso. So for now, just farming up maybe the threat of a potential rotation in. And Rocane's holding the Earn on this right side of the map. So maybe Hydra Nation want to bring numbers and really get this turn in. But so far, the lane is pushed against them. The Guardian's down here. Not the easiest spot to get the turn in. I wonder if they're really going to be able to do this or if they're just trying to pull resources.
They're going on left right now. Saya was immediately threatening, looking for the lasso. John did the rotation back up to the zip line through the jungle. And Leffa sniffs it out entirely and actually is able to fully rotate away. Seeing the rotation on the main map is super cool, but now Saya, quick momentum, popping over here to the middle. Lasso good to go. Drops it. Did it connect? I don't think it did.
Yeah, and mid now being defended by Hydra Nation. Geist here just pumping damage in all who would dare contest that tower. Lomain has a role, but doesn't want to get forced into it too defensively. And Hydra Nation have massive numbers in mid. The only one not here is Leffa, who can, of course, TP in. So they're looking to get that full team fight. Kinetic Carbine misses, but now Viscous in trouble. Gonna pop the roll. Could be turning into a tough kill. John as well is here with the ulti. 7 as well over the top. It's getting very awkward for Hydra Nation, but they're kiting these ultis well.
Yeah, I mean, most of them are out of range of the Storm Cloud here. They're gonna lose Quig. So Quig out of it. Still Poppers has the copy ready to go. Ido just stuck. Usually Abrams likes being in the corner like that, but not so much in this instance. Hydra Nation rotate away from the Storm Cloud, get the proper punish, and they're gonna get the 7 at the very end. A clean 4-piece for Hydra Nation. And now we're about 13 minutes in. Good time to check in the one and only Mr. Mitch, Mr. Uber. What do you got?
I actually stepped away to pee for the last 5 minutes, CP. So, no,
well,
hold on, buddy. Back to you.
You are an NA, so, you know, it makes perfect sense.
This fight was like, should have been so good for Melee Creeps. They had a pretty significant soul lead. Hydration didn't have Black Hole. it was the opportunity. They brought everyone. They tried to force the 6-on-6, and they just got crushed. Hydra Nation kited the 7 ult. John wasn't able to connect. Lomane wasn't able to get the catches with the roll. I mean, that was just a beautiful read of the map, but it's a nice kill on Leffa. No global TP this time. And John, see if he wants to get back in, coming with the ulti. A catch on Paradox, both ulting each other, but I think Paradox is going to come out the worst for wear.
Melee Creeps, decent snapback after what was a pretty brutal team fight. Saya under the gun, able to just take the ice path, get healed back up. A little bit of nice support there from Quig in all sorts of ways as Melee Creeps just stack mill. And also, you know, you look at objective difference here between the teams. Both teams get their flex slot, but Melee Creeps up a Guardian. Here so far, Ido though, going a little bit deeper.
He's got ulti.
Hydration on the mine, just goes in and just punches down. Not even punches, shoots Hydration in the closet.
Warden, though, can tank that ulti and just life stealing right back up. A little bit deep, though. Hold on. Now there's more support coming in. John, yeah, oversteps. That dash in was just a little bit too much. Lomane couldn't hold the aggro forever, getting low HP on the ball. Across the map, a lot of pressure being applied from Melee Creeps, but they're not able to get objectives out of that, and they're going to need to, take this reset. I think they're lucky to get out with that of that aggressive posture with only the 1 death, but still, John going down, definitely painful. On the swap onto Saya, potentially setting up for more.
Problem is, Holiday can just bounce pad, get away in an area that's just, it's difficult to pin her down without extra support. And also, Jake, I think we're right about at the point in the game where Saya's about to grab Veilwalker. So the threat of Hydra Nation moving freely amongst the map, it's going to be really difficult pretty soon here. So the power spike Saya's about to get, you got to watch closely because it really does change freedom of movement on the map.
It's also interesting because Saya has Trophy Collector, so assists and kills are going to give you that stacking buff of bonus health, sprint speed, ability range, souls per minute. Just like, if you can get up to the max stacks, I think that item should just be crazy broken, no, right? Like with all those stats for the late game, but it does rely on you successfully getting kills and assists, successfully making those ganks actually pay off. And so I think Saya definitely wants to optimize for that. It really does fit the style. But of course, we've seen game 1 and game 2 are night and day in terms of the actual outcome of those plays.
Game 3, though, looking to be the closest so far. Both teams learning and adapting from each other. You know, the real threat perhaps waiting in the wings here, though, Jake. By the way, in terms of like big power spikes, Spirit Burn being rushed by Vegas. And that can have a pretty big impact on the game. One of the new, power items that you can get in the Spirit Tree, and does a lot in terms of healing for the other team, and also just it's decent extra damage on top of it. So, Vegas probably keen to fight at the moment.
I don't think you can do this right? Like, there's 6 players here for Hydra Nation. The only one, Leffa, of course, assuming he will come with a global TP. Pocket in deep. Oh, God, catch. In a little bit deep, has the cloak, has the TP out, but can't get there in time. Big connection, though, from Hydration onto 3. Is it enough? Is it overwhelming? No! Melee Creeps have everyone. They brought the entire gang, absolutely keeping everyone alive. Quig with the heal stabilizing, and it's a 6-for-0. The dream team fight.
Yo, is that Ido? Did you get the number of that Ido train that just came over and in? That was ridiculous. Where we're just talking about, okay, Vegas, huge power spike, except when you get caught by the big Abrams charge, you get pummeled, taken down the ground, and you're not able to land a massive affliction as a result. Ido, right place, right time, sets up Melee Creeps for the Erd, gives them the mid-boss, and now a definitive lead on the rest of the game. Hydra Nation, who is looking to make this week their week that they retake the crown, now in a whole heap of trouble, Jake.
Oh my God, and that's so many stacks of Trophy Collector for Saya. This is the dream scenario. I will say Lomane getting caught right now should be a pretty quick kill, but he's dancing on him, he's styling on him, trying to play his way out of this, trying to get help from the boys. Oh my God, I can't believe these games, there's no way. Oh my God, he's out. How does he get away with that? That is some fast moves from Lomane on the Viscous.
Jake, the boys showed up. This is what happened. Quake's like, I got you.
Catch. Look at that shotgun damage from Ido.
Yo, Ido's jacked right now, 2,600 HP on doing a little bit of Gamma. That's how little he cares about chasing down that kill in the moment. Second, what matters, and what matters is not having the -3 while the entire chat is watching. That's
He's big gun damage, man. Serious gun threat from this Abrams. Going to scale into the late game, and the rejuve is just like shoving these waves in. The rejuve creeps are crazy strong. Like Hydration almost can't hold this. Like even putting a hero in the lane, the creeps are still going to be pushing into you. So it's going to be Leffa just playing to farm that one up. More players caught on the map. Geist, you're swapping, but yeah, Viscus is going to heal through that, and that's a very long cooldown ult that's not going to be available. I think Melee Creeps, there's got their ults coming online in the next 20, 30 seconds. There's going to be a big opportunity here to take some walkers.
Melee Creeps is in a really, really good spot right now. And while it's not out of reach for Hydra Nation, it is quickly approaching that point. They still don't have Singularity back online. Melee Creeps taking good advantage. Sai right now in the back. About to have Lasso up in 10 seconds. Actually kind of dangerous to hang around. Hydration people gonna get caught by John off on the other side. So Hydration down. Another Walker soon to fall. And if anyone even peeks here for a second, Jake, it could be another Lasso kill courtesy of Saya.
John holding that aggro off angle. Crazy, diving in, and then, you know, Saya's just holding it down. You can't even come to contest. Vegas, lassoed, bursted, killed. This game is looking to be over, man. Melee Creeps won another championship, and look at that long-range punch. Oh my God, the heavy melee just hunting you down. One diving in, trying to get crazy, trying to make some trades, and the trades are being punished across the map. This game is going to be over sooner rather than later if it keeps going this direction. Hydra Nation team wiped again, the lead continuing to expand. Another Walker falls.
Might want to call Hydra Nation a cookie, because right now all you're seeing, Jake, is the crumble. This is brutal across the board. Just one staggered death after another. And it went from what was a manageable 20K deficit, now 33,000 separating the teams, let alone getting the soul economy, where you take a look at Ido, you take a look at John. They are fed, and Saya so farmed at the moment relative to the most Hydra Nation, he could finish half of his own lasso ganks. Is just gone all completely wrong for Hydra Nation in the last few minutes. Now we have a bit of a reprieve. This time around, we'll call in Mitch, and I think he's got some stuff to dish.
Trophy Collector is at least at 10 stacks for Saya right now, which, by the way, is giving you like an extra 10% ability range, as well as 200 souls per minute just passively gaining. It gives you such a random array of little stats: bonus health, sprint speed, ability range, souls per minute. So, I mean, it's quite insane because it already gives you a flat 2 meters a second sprint speed. So this all synergizes so well with Saya's game plan of making use of that Veil Walker, which of course gives you that increased move speed anyway. It can pop up anywhere on the map at a second's notice and have this increased range, up to like an extra 14 meters of increased range, which in this game is disgusting on that lasso. Very powerful. For me, an absolute front runner for MVP over this series. The guy is looking incredible.
Yeah, really on fire this series. John as well, and the Warden has had only good games from my perspective. Really clean. He's been also getting a lot of prio, getting the comfort pick on the Warden. There's good reason for that because the execution has been really nice. I mean, look at the mobility. The move speed is so obscene right now from this holiday. I mean, you can rotate across the map. It's like this is like the speed of Ava in like the cat from Palico's cat form, right? Like this is actually comparable. This is like a crazy level of stacks to have this early in the game.
That's a Lightning Scroll Warden that just showed up, by the way. Lightning Scroll Warden coming on in.
And you can stack that, right? Like Lightning Scroll on Warden, Lightning Scroll on 7. Oh my God, like it's gonna be so crazy to fight into these ultis. So many options to stun Hydration out of the ult. And here's the big commitment, high ground.
He's on in.
Fight this for Hydration. It's too scary. And they're losing players. Like there's 3 players doing the earn turn in and they're getting team wiped in the base. This game is done, man. Melee Creeps. Just at the, it's a formality here. Just have to clean up the base.
Ridiculous. I mean, not with a bang, but with a whimper right now is Hydra Nation. And you know, there's part of me that wanted to bring up the point of, well, what about the great big singularity play? I think Hydration could get a 3 to 4 man singularity.
You get a 6 man.
Melee Creeps would probably win the fight still. That is the level of difference now between the teams in terms of economy. I do not see the path back for Hydra Nation at the moment, but if they found it, it would be the greatest comeback, I think, in Deadlock history. But we'll see, because right now, Melee Creeps appear to have this one wrapped up.
Yeah, I mean, they're low HP. They're going to back off, take the heals, clear the whole map of camps, like expand the lead. I mean, the one hope for Hydra Nation is the new comeback mechanic. So I will say it's hard to compare comebacks now since they have fundamentally changed that opportunity. But taking a lot of camps, there's not really much to speak of on the side of the map for Hydra Nation. And Melee Creep's going to take the opportunity to reset. I think realistically, they don't need to push the base. They just play the map, and it's just a matter of time. You're waiting for mid-boss to spawn. But, I mean, Ido is at full strength. And this build on Abrams really does remind me of the Yamato build from last game. Just massive gun threat and still a lot of utility, some powerful skills on this Abrams build.
Well, you know what it is? Ido's just gone full caveman mode. Like, no weapons, simply fist. Like, show me who to hit with fist is where Ido's game mentality has gone to nowadays. Just okay,
he's one hitting those like this. He's got a lot of gun damage right now. Like, this is pretty serious. Like, and there's a lot of late game threat on this team, right? It's only really Lowman and Quig, where even Lowman has some pretty serious nuking threat, could be building into more of that as the game continues. Although I feel like for this team, like, they could just having Quig and Lowman both with tons of utility is all you need. Sly has Arctic Blast, even more control, more stuns. That Arctic Blast is actually a devastating skill. It's almost like a mini ultimate in terms of having like a reliable AoE control.
And extra damage amp too when you're already getting pummeled while in the middle of the lasso. So
just moving at warp speed.
And by the way,
Frozen.
This is the anti-gamma police.
Lasts. He's taking him all the way home. Oh. And the huge bag. Ulting.
Stopping someone named Vegas from gambling might be a crime. Just
oh my god.
The Popper just got run over.
He got run over by the magic carpet biscuits. This game is done, ZP.
It is brutal. It is not only nothing but yellow in the kill feed, Jake, but it is yellow in the kill feed in a dramatic way, a comedic way. And it just continues to get worse for Hydra Nation, who looked so good back in map 1, still very competitive in map 2, but in map 3, the wheels have fallen off the wagon.
Just way too much of an overcommitment from Hydra Nation in this draft, in like thinking that you can shut down Ido by taking away 2 of his best heroes. And now he comes out on the Abrams, which he has shown a desire to play in the past, has looked great on. And this is a formality. This is stability and consistency. I'm sure the comms are coming in from Quig, making sure the team stays focused, stays locked in. Lowman's like taking the base, by the way, right now. Just vibing.
Why not?
I mean, truly, why not? Keep the waves push in. Maybe you could go for an earn turn in. I feel like that would be like excessively safe here for melee creeps, but they have all the tools they need. They've got the ultimates online. They're looking at a 50k soul lead. This is just put the finishing touches on it.
Yo, Mitch, if this situation right now, what's your best take on it? What do you got?
I mean, I just think it's like a little bit excessive, honestly. It feels like walking into someone's house, right? Kicking them out and then wearing their ill-fitting golf outfit that really gives you like a fly's eyes in the crotch area. Like, it doesn't fit you, but you're wearing it anyway. And then you break your foot off in their rear end.
That sounds about right. It also sounds very Australian at the same time, which also makes perfect sense as far as where we're at. But melee creeps, they got the Rejuvenator. They're playing in and around the urn. Hydra Nation looking to make magic happen. If magic does happen from Hydration, drops Singularity, picks on 2. Their health isn't moving, Jake. But nothing happened. Absolutely nothing happened. They just got a supportive hug, a therapeutic hug from Hydration before everyone got ruthlessly murdered and sent back into spawn as Lowmain. Carpet, roll.
This combo is so obscene. Just rolling. Lowmain, be careful, bro. He doesn't have cube, but I mean, it's just a formality. You are talking about almost double the souls here. Every single player on melee is just completely out of control. And Hydra Nation, they come back with a revamped roster. They look stronger, but melee creeps, despite having Ido on the sub, Ido had a great series overall. Even game 1 on the Lash, I think Ido played pretty well. I feel like we got to put a lot of respect on Ido for this series, coming in under pressure. The rest of melee creeps looking amazing. John on the Warden, looking to really solidify that as one of the best player hero combos in NA. I feel like the teams are gonna have to start respect banning this and just denying him from the pool. This one's over, baby. Cut the
patron goes on down, and melee creeps will not be ripped off the throne. Your North American champions once more for Deadlock Fight Night 25. Of course, as always, presented by Intel. But man, oh man, Mitch, it was close until it wasn't.
I wonder if like Ido is like the seagull of Deadlock. You know what I mean? Like this like content creators really loved and comes in and then just absolutely unzips and goes wild on them in game. Really impressed by him. And look, this is someone who got like you cannot target him more if you tried. Like everything that Hydra Nation could do was aimed at trying to sort of take Idorian off a comfortable hero as opposed to sort of win the game to their detriment, I think. And like Jake was right. He said at the start of this game, he said, watch them just put Ido on the Abrams and win the game. Do you know what I mean? And the guy was still able to do it, right? There's some real standouts over the course of this series. I remember like this John guy is kind of correct. I've never seen Lightning. To be fair, it's only been a few games this patch, but Lightning Scroll Warden is going to live rent free in my head. The fact that not only you stun people, that's all well and good, but you reduce people's movement speed when you hit them with spirit damage. That is exactly what the ultimate does. That is terrifying. The guy entered the game with 30k player damage. The next closest in the whole server was like Vegas on that pocket, who was able to have a pretty good game in the end. So I don't know. These guys are cracked, man. And we were genuinely dogging on Sire in game 1. Genuinely. And then he
had a bad game. I mean, he had a bad game, but what's impressive for me, exactly, as a player that you can honestly, any player would say like, look, it was a bad game. He knows he had a bad game on game 1, but the fact that you can take that beating in game 1 and come back and be like, no, just give me the hero again. Like I'm fine. Like I will do well. That's the key, right? Is that's the player you want on your team, is a guy who's not phased by taking a tough game, is going to come back in the series and be a huge carry in the next 2, straight up, same hero, same spot, same condition, just like, no, this time I'm going to do better. Like that's the confidence you need. That's like the right way to think, but not all players can do that, especially under pressure in the money match.
Dude, 10, 0, and 25 was Sire's scoreline for this game. Bro, and the build is sick. Like Trophy Collector is so interesting because it obviously, like, you get stacks on assists as well as kills. So when you're an initiator, that's obviously kind of your thing. That's kind of exactly what you're doing. It becomes an unbelievably soul efficient item when you can have it stacked, and you do in games like this. There's a lot to be excited about on the side. Sorry, Quig. I mean, you're playing Kelvin, mate. You know, nothing personal, bro. But there's a lot to be excited about on this Melee Creep side, especially like the 7 build. You know, still made a lot of sense. Still looked pretty good. This game was less impactful, ZP, less oppressive, but we now understand the idea.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've gotten a lot of illumination as to how some of the items work and what's the idea behind some builds. And certainly, some didn't look great back in map 1, but I think you look back, you could just chalk it up to execution where, if you just whiff a whole bunch of frozen shelters and lassos, well, the rest of your team is not going to look good. But you know who is going to look good? At the very least, he's always given us an entertaining interview. That's right, it's Ido, and I'm going to, supersede, production I got. I was going to drag him up, but Ido, welcome over here to Deadlock Fight Night. We've interviewed you before. We're gonna interview you again because this was a roller coaster of the series. And first off, how did it come about you subbing in for Melee Creeps today?
Bro, AVG just hit me up and I was like, shit, I need some content, bro. It's dry right now. Yo, it's dry. It is dry. Like, and that's why I appreciate DFN so much, because you guys is just like, showing it up, and I'm just like, I'm here for it, bro. I'm like, fuck yeah, I get to play in DFN again. Let's go. Woo!
Bro, you're bringing the content. What am I saying, bro? Like, we just provide the vessel for it, man. Look, you got target banned like crazy over that series. How did it feel to know that basically they were turning themselves inside out to try and take you off a power pick? And how did you overcome that? Because you looked like you just moved on to Abrams and still shit on him. So,
dude, I feel bad. Like, I kind of feel bad because, like, I didn't even expect to play this DFN, and like, I don't know if you guys know how like my ex-teammates are on the Hydra Nation now, right? And I felt kind of bad. I was like, fuck, I really just have to come in here and stomp them. Like, dude. Oh man, this
really,
is not.
Though? How bad do you actually feel though? Like if I really had to.
Actually, I feel a little bad, just a little bit though. I mean, I'm hype. I mean, let's go, another win, another ring for the boy. But it's. Yeah. I'm like, I just feel a little bad because, I did say I want to step down and do content, but I guess I'm just fucking putting.
This is content, baby.
Right? This is content.
Right
True.
This series was content, brother. You smoked it.
He still got it.
I haven't scrimmed in like weeks, and I'm just like fucking a solo queue demon, I guess, working out. So I'm happy about it. Shout out Melee Creeps too. Thanks for letting me sub in. Appreciate it.
I just want to ask just sort of like a more broad question for the game in general. Like, how are you feeling about this new patch now that it's live in the game? What are your impressions? What are your thoughts about like this new era in Deadlock with the new patch?
Dude, I feel like they just released the chains on my arms. Like that's what they've done with this patch. It's fucking amazing. Oh, whoa. It's freaking amazing, dude.
Yeah. Put the fries in the bag, bro. Keep going.
Whoa. All right, it's freaking amazing. So yeah, like I get to play my styles, dude. I'm playing like nobody's playing melee Yamato, you know what I'm saying? And I'm able to pull it out against the best players in the video game and respectfully beat them down with it. You know what I'm saying? I was looking like Mike Tyson. You know, I was going crazy, bro. I'm telling you, it was good. It's good. It's nice being able to do what I want to do in the game and still perform at a high level. And I really, it's really, I give it all to like Yoshi and the team because like the items allow me to do that, and it's just a great change. I love this new patch. It's cinema.
Okay,
Absolute
so
cinema.
I got a question here, and it's not the final question. Mitch and Jake, you can come in after this, should you want, but the people want to know, well, you just won and you want to make content. We here at the Deadlock Fight Night channel, we could host you after if you want to go for an ultra long stream and just, you know, really give the people what they want. You gonna stay on and stream for a few more hours after this or what? What's going on?
I mean, yeah, for a little bit, but like another 7-8 hours, you know, some light, just a little grind
Sorry,
session.
light work.
Yeah.
We'll get early
Not bad.
bedtime, 6 a.m. You know, like just,
Yeah. Thank you guys all for watching. By the way, everyone in chat, hell yeah, let's go. Thanks to hell, yeah.
All right, well, that sounds good.
Don't read me yet,
Here
don't read me
at
yet.
DFN, Ido, congratulations again. A well-fought victory, and, you know, anyone's watching here, we'll send your Ido's way after the stream wraps up, but we still got some business to finish up here, and that first course of business as Ido leaves is going to be, we got to talk about player of the match, and we've getting a lot of glazing the Ido here. I mean,
He looks like a garden gnome with all this glazing ZP.
Yeah. No, he'd be fit to be sold at a Krispy Kreme, but
It's like a terracotta soldier.
I know. We got someone else to talk about here, and that is our player of the match presented by Intel. It's got to be John. Consistency all night long in the middle lane with Saya on the Warden. Didn't have the missed lassos to his name either. Just made Warden in this new era of Deadlock look good.
I've been impressed by John since he came in and started playing. He was playing the Spirit Warden even like before this patch. And so now that the patch looks like it's enabled him a little bit, the combo looks so sick and he's able to get it all 3 games, have 3 big games back to back to back, had a few key kills, even in game 1 where they kind of got owned. Still, John was having impact and able to get some key kills in the mid game and you know, keep it in contention. And then the second 2 game, or rather the back 2 games, we get to see, okay, the true potential that he's able to deliver looks insane. So I've just been really impressed by John. I thought he had a great series. This was a very tough POTM, I gotta say. Like, there were a lot of very serious candidates for melee creeps.
Giving no cares about the fact there's a Sinclair on their side, by the way. Like, just didn't really seem to be a factor in this game. But Spirit builds right now are kind of insane, right? Between Mercurial Magnum, you know, between the Lightning Scroll, for God's sake, and even like Arcane Surge, just little tweaks like that make you so good. You can see like the builds, honestly, they vary a little bit, right? I can see Tank Buster getting worked in there. There's like slowing bullets. There's a Fortitude in that second game build. My personal favorite, the Fury Trance getting picked up. So we're still seeing experimentation, but Warden really seems to have benefited so much from so many of these items here. So I'm curious to see how players like Warden and others are going to go out and innovate this build. We've been impressed with John ever since he stepped foot on DFN, right? Yeah. So much so that like Jason was trying to discredit John's ridiculous stats because he'd only played 4 games. But I think at this point, like, the guy has sort of solidified himself as a mainstay here, and I'm blown away. This Melee Creeps team, I know for a fact they had less opportunity to practice this, to sort of, you know, to get experience on this patch, and they've done an amazing job.
Also, I think John, I think the thing you have to give him credit for is that John's a grinder. I mean, John has been in the Deadlock pretty much for about a year now, so far as I know, but it was kind of funny. So when Deadlock first hit its original alpha, a lot of pro players from other games, you know, players from Overwatch, et cetera, were in, and there was a point where people were like, oh man, I got John on my team again. Like, I feel like this guy's throwing my games. Like, you know, some of the players that had like really high-end FPS experience were not a fan. But here's the thing. John didn't stop playing the game and just put hour after hour after hour into the game. And even if some of those, you know, pros that have long since stopped playing the game, you know, may have been a little bit like, I don't like this John guy. Guess what? Now one of the very top players in the game and put on a masterclass in the money match here at DFN. That's progression, and that's the power of just being a player that grinds the game and gets better and better week in, week out.
That's always how it goes, man, in games like Deadlock. I think there's so much opportunity for disruption, for new players to make their mark on the scene. I mean, even now, it feels like, okay, the top players are so good at Deadlock, but like, believe me, this is nothing. In 2 years, you know, people are going to be like an ungodly level in this game, and there's always going to be room for there to be that like up-and-coming player who just is motivated enough to get there, especially a game like Deadlock that is so intensely individually skilled. Like, there's so much opportunity to skill gap in this
really
game.
Hard.
Yeah, the game is seriously hard, and so I think that what that means is that it's just exciting to see all these new players who, like you said, ZP, they want it bad, they're motivated, they're grinding, and they're able to put on huge performances in DFN and show up for the fans as well. So definitely hats off to John. It's been an impressive run for him, and I just want to see how far he can go.
All right. Well, that is brought us to the end of the show here tonight. It was a wild one here at Deadlock Fight Night. A great way to end our 25th show. And of course, a lot still more to come. This is the recap, of course, everything here tonight. If you missed it, VP still champions of EU, Melee Creeps champions once more, and NA, even if they had to fight for it, and even if they had to do it with a sub. But just remember, if you're just tuning in now or you want more Deadlock content, the fun doesn't end here. Check out our YouTube. We're posting content all the time. More content is going to be coming on in, talking about the builds of the week here for the various teams, and of course, meta reports and so much more, or just the VODs if you found good moments and you want to go back and revisit. But regardless, this has been Deadlock Fight Night, presented by Intel, and we'll see you all next time.
Play a game.